Call to order the meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission for April the 14th, 2025. We ask that everyone please stand at this time for our prayer and pledge of allegiance. We'll ask the Commissioner Charlotte P. lead us in that prayer and pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to conduct Rutherford County business. Thank you that we have this privilege to speak our minds and wishes. Lord, grant us wisdom, patience, with loving hearts. Be with those in need. Be with those that put themselves in harm's way to protect us and to protect our freedoms. Forgive us of our shortcomings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. The pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
You all be seated. Thank you, Commissioner P. Begin with our roll call and determination of quorum. Madam Secretary.
Jim Averwater. Jeff Phillips. Present. Mike Cush.
Present.
Lee Bogle. Here. Charlotte P. Here. Trey Gooch.
Here.
Jim Thompson. Here. Michael Shirley.
Here.
Jason Beavers. Here. Pettis Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. We now do our approval of minutes for February 24th and March 24th of 2025. I'll call on my Vice Chairman to take care of those minutes.
Thank you. I have reviewed the minutes for the February 24th meeting and March 24th meeting, and those are in good order. I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the minutes have been approved. Public comment period, anyone?
No, sir.
We do not have anyone for public comment period. Items withdrawn or deferred?
Nope, everything's on the agenda.
Don't have anyone there either. So we'll move right into our new business, beginning with item A, rezoning, zoning ordinance amendment request. All rezoning and regulation amendment requests will be considered at the May 15th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting unless deferred or withdrawn by the Planning Commission or the applicant. Item 1 is Bryan Bird for Walter Hill Church of Christ, REZ 25005. Location is 7277 Lebanon Pike. The Commissioner is District 2, Stephen Piercy. Size of sites approximately 10.4 acres. Tax map is 36, parcel 25.05. Existing zonings is residential medium density. Proposed zoning is institutional. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and good evening, everybody. This property, as you stated, is located along Lebanon Pike. Staff met with representatives from the church back in March of this year. The representatives outlined their plans, which included expanding the existing worship seat count from 400 to 550 occupants. To achieve these additional 150 seats, they plan to reconfigure the existing worship space and create a small area for a new stage location. They're also proposing a 4,000 square foot addition to the fellowship hall. You'll see this on the concept plan, which is in your agenda packets. Mike also has a copy on the big screens as well. Community assembly uses that exceed 500 occupants are classified as large community assembly uses. Those are not allowed by either special exception or by right in the RM zone. So when we found out their intent to expand their seating capacity, we did instruct them at that time to pursue a rezoning application to institutional to allow for the expansion. County regulations do require one parking space for each 5 seats in the main assembly room. With their proposed occupancy, they have enough parking on the property. They will be required to submit a site plan for the addition of the 4,000 square feet for the fellowship hall. That will have to go to the Planning Commission just because of its size. Landscaping and performance standards, of course, those will also have to meet county requirements. But for the most part, this really is not what I would call a redevelopment of the property. It's just for an expansion, but that expansion is putting them above the threshold between a medium and a large, which is the reason why you're seeing this here today. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I don't know if someone from the church is here representing the church or not. There's a lot of people here. Yes, there are some folks standing in the back. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for the staff? If not, is there the applicant available? Right back here. Come forward. Good evening, sir. Just come around here to the front of the podium and just give your name and address and address the commissioners here. Let them answer any, or ask you any questions or ask you anything about what you're doing.
All right, my name is Bryan Bird. I'm an elder at the Walter Hill Church of Christ, 7277 Lebanon Road. My personal residence is 9854 Bradley Creek in Milton, Tennessee. As mentioned, we're just doing just changing our auditorium. We're actually flipping it around. Instead of vertical, we're flipping it around horizontal so we can get 550 seats in there. We're also adding a 4,000 square foot fellowship hall. As mentioned, because we're exceeding that 499 seat capacity, there's a reason we're looking for the application for the rezoning. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? I think you answered everything. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here this evening. We'll now go into our public comment period on this item. At this time, we'll ask if there's anyone has anything they'd like to say, either for or against this. We'll ask that they'll come forward at this time, come here to the podium, give us their name and address, and they'll have 3 minutes. You'll notice that there is a set of lights, green, yellow, and blue. They're just like what you'd see out here on Old Fort Street. The only thing is you cannot run the red. I will stop you. So we'll ask that anybody wants to come forward at this time. We ask that you come forward at this time to speak on this subject. That didn't take long, so we'll just end the public comment period on this item. Commissioners?
Doug, Chairman, Doug, staff recommends approval.
Yes, sir, we did.
Chairman, I move to approve with staff comments.
Motion approved with staff comments.
I'll second.
Have a second. Further discussion.
I do have a question, Mr. Chair, over here.
Over here.
Mike, will this be an increase in attendees to the church, I would assume?
It will be an increase. Is that what you said? Yes, yes,
okay.
it will.
Will this require, I noticed on the site plan here, or the rough site plan, I don't see any additional parking. Will this require some additional parking?
Yeah, actually, they have enough required parking for the occupancies that even what they're proposing, they have enough to meet county requirements.
It's one for every 5
Every
seats.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Jim Averwater? Yes. Jeff Phillips? Aye. Mike Cush?
Yes.
Lee Bogle? Yes. Charlotte P? Yes. Trey Gooch?
Yes.
Jim Thompson? Yes. Michael Shirley?
Aye.
Jason Beavers? Yes. Pettis Reed?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And motion does carry. Moving now into item 2, Josh Cannon, the Gravel Company, REZ 25007, locations on John Bragg Highway, Commissioner District, is Robert P. Jr. Size of site is approximately 2.5 acres. Tax map is 104, parcel is 166. Existing zone is residential medium density, and the proposed zoning is commercial services. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This request probably looks familiar to the Planning Commission. The Commission considered a rezoning request on this property, actually the entire tract, and I'll get into that here in just a minute. Back in April of last year, they wanted to zone the entire tract, which is about 7.5 acres, to commercial general for the eventual use as a boat and RV storage facility. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of the application. I did include the minutes from that meeting in with your agenda package just for your reference. The applicant did not pursue the matter to the Board of Commissioners, so the case was closed. Since that time, the property owner has divided about 2.5 acres from the parent tract, and you'll see I attached a copy of the recorded plat with this report. The current applicant would like to zone the property commercial services to eventually develop the property for a lawn and garden supply store. Our understanding is, however, that they would like to store gravel or mulch on the subject property before any structures are actually built. We have provided a concept plan. This is a little bit of an older plan that they had. You'll see that there actually says commercial general on there when they're actually asking for commercial services, so that was a little confusing, but it is commercial services is what they're asking for. This concept plan indicates proposed access on the John Bragg Highway. Since that is a state road, they would have to get TDOT approval for that. We've had a lot of meetings with TDOT. I'm not sure they would like that alignment, but regardless of what happens tonight, if this is approved and goes to the county commission, that's something that they would have to address during the site plan stage. And that will require, again, engineered site plan for the development of the site and everything. Type 2 buffers are required between commercially and residentially zoned properties. These buffer requirements would take effect should a development plan be approved along with its construction. Again, we would see that as well on an engineered site plan. And of course, our performance standards would also apply. There is a property that's adjacent. It's an approved wholesale nursery and is along a major arterial road. It's on John Bragg. The closest commercial zoning, however, is located at the intersection of John Bragg Highway and Coleman Road, which is a Dollar General about 1,000 feet to the west of the subject property. You'll notice, reading the minutes from that meeting last year, most of the comments made during the public hearing concerned site development, possible impacts to adjacent property from drainage, safety issues, impacts to underground water wells, et cetera. This proposed use is different than what they originally proposed, as is the amount of property being requested. We can see some positives and negatives with this, as we can with most applications, so we remained neutral on this particular application. The applicant is here, or at least the property owner I know is here, but and I know that there are folks in the audience that are here to speak on this item as well. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner, questions or comments? Commissioner Shirley.
Are there soils for septic on this particular spot because they look like they're using the majority of that section for storage and parking?
Yeah. When this plat came before the Planning Commission, it was approved as a non-buildable lot, which means there were no identified septic soils on the property. And if you remember during that meeting, I made it clear that approval of the plat did not equate any kind of a zoning change. So that's why you're seeing this here. But to answer your question, there's no identified soils on that property.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is for staff, particularly Mike. It appears this property drains to a sinkhole that's on on the adjoining property to the rear. Is that correct? Is there any other way for this water to get out of there but to that sinkhole?
Well, it does look like there is a small depression here, but it also drains to, I guess, the west, and it looks like it might go underneath one of these buildings right here. I think that we discussed that last meeting, which we always don't recommend putting a pipe under a structure, but a lot of times they happen, but that's what it appears. But if this were approved for the rezoning, this would have to come back for a full site plan review and back to this commission too.
Thank you, Chair. Michael, just in a nutshell, how does this reconfiguration or reuse of this property with storage of, looks like soils and stone, how does that change the impact of our original concerns of, with the, like Jim said, the drainage, the flow? As I recall, and again, I may be off base here because I've slept a few times since then. Didn't this property hold a considerable amount of water after a rain event in its history?
I believe it does have some. I can go back and look at 2010 imagery.
I guess my real question is, regardless of its usage, what is this plan better? Is it the same? Are we still dealing with the same concerns we had a year or two ago?
Well, it limits the use to a smaller portion of the entire property and towards John Bragg Highway. I can't speak for TDOT, but I'm pretty sure they're going to only allow one entrance combined in and out. Yeah, it's pretty much a rehash of what was before, but at a limited scale.
Okay, well, and I guess one of the flags I have is I see bins for a variety of different, looks like containment or storage for rock, soil, mulch, I guess. Is that right? Is that the intention of this property?
Okay.
Yes, there's going to be, he actually submitted a picture that I just remembered was there. It's that last one. It's the last one there. Yeah, that one. I don't know if that's his existing facility or exactly where this is. He sent that, said this is an example of what he's proposing for the property. So that's what it is that he's looking for, something
okay,
along
so
those lines.
something similar.
Correct.
So in my mind, from a hydraulic standpoint, you're creating two levees or two dams. Is that going to impede flow, Mike, as you see it across this property? And does that create even more of a challenge with this kind of configuration?
Not so much. I mean, we'll still have to look at it at a site plan review and a full grading plan. They do show a proposed stormwater management area here where they'll have to detain the new impervious area. But it is, like any site in Rutherford County, it will be a challenge. And with this drainage of ultimately going underneath this building, that gives me a little heartburn, so.
Shirley.
Please excuse my ignorance. Have we ever rezoned, or is there precedent for rezoning a piece of property for a commercial business with no restroom facilities on site? Do we do that?
Well, one example that comes into my mind are actually some of these newer self-storage facilities. A lot of them don't have a manager's office or any kind of an office. They're all done through a kiosk. So to answer your question, have we done this? But maybe not for a specific necessarily use, although there is another one in the county. But to answer your question, yeah, there are other commercial businesses that are there that.
Not similar to that, because
it's a different type use. That's correct.
I have gone and picked up gravel and topsoil. There has to be somebody there the whole time they're in business to operate the machinery to load the trailers. So there's going to be somebody on site during business hours. I guess this will be a question I'll have for the developer. But do we allow porta potties to be used as the primary bathroom for a site long term?
I'll attempt to answer that. Tanya, feel free to jump in anytime. If they're going to have a building on the property, I believe they have to have a functioning restroom facility. If there's no soil on the property, that's where I start getting a little fuzzy, but I'll let Ms. Bell answer that.
That is correct. Doug is correct. If there is no structure on the property, if there is no building on the property, then I cannot require a restroom. If they've got an employee there, they'll have to provide something for them, and I would say that could be done by a portable bathroom.
We did one over on the Nashville Highway? On Nashville Highway at one time. Over there, is it Cemetery, the community over there? I remember us doing that one.
Doug, let me ask you, I guess it's working. Looks like we're rezoning from RM to CS. Once that's done, what does that open the door up? I'm gonna run a gravel business here for about 6 months. What does the owner then have the opportunity to do with a CS classification?
Right. Out of our we've got three primary commercial zones. We've got commercial neighborhood, commercial services, and commercial general. Commercial neighborhood is the most restrictive. Commercial general is the least, so commercial services kind of in the middle. You will be able to get, the biggest differences between commercial general and commercial services are some of the uses such as like car dealerships and things like that. Auto repair is allowed in both. You can do commercial services auto repair. Most retail you can do in commercial services as well. there's not, there's a limit, I'll say under commercial neighborhood, which is a more restrictive zone, but that limit for retail uses isn't applicable in the commercial service. So it's, I won't say it's completely wide open, but there's a fairly good amount of uses that it does allow.
Thank you.
I see on here it says they eventually want to develop it into a lawn and garden supply store. So at some point in time, looks like they're kind of pursuing to build a structure.
Right. That may be his eventual plan. The applicant could probably speak a little more to as far as timing goes. But looking at the concept plan, there was some concern about the septic soils. Again, there's no identified soils on the property. It looks like they're disturbing most of that, 2+ acres. I think it'd be difficult to find another septic site on that property. So, if you're having a garden supply store, again, you just start getting back to what Mr. Shirley was talking about as far as somebody always on site. There's a building there, is there a bathroom facility, those kind of things.
Any other questions? If not, we'll ask that the applicant or his representative come forward at this time and give us additional information or explanation.
Good evening, Chairman Reed, members of the commission. Thank you. Jonathan Fagan on behalf of the applicant. Just had a few comments, and then I'll turn it over to my
Mr. Chairman, can you adjust your microphone, speak into the microphone for us?
Is it operating? Okay, thank you. I'll just speak directly into it, I'm sorry. Jonathan Fagan on behalf of the applicant. I'll say a few things and just generally, and then turn it over to any questions that may be had for the applicant. The applicant seeks rezoning to a use already occurring upon an adjoining parcel to the subject parcel. As an agricultural and landscaping product sales in the form of rock, mulch, gravel, and topsoil. And these are retail sales to the public. Applicant wishes to make a good faith effort to assure all neighbors to the subject parcel that proper landscaping, screening, and dust control will be in place on behalf of the neighbors, as is reflected on the submitted site plan. And the applicant is prepared to, if necessary, to post bond for such with Mr. DeMassi's staff as they determine as a condition for approval. Said site plan submitted to the commission includes opaque screening fence surrounding the parcel to screen it from all neighbors. Said site plan includes a chain link security fence surrounding the entire parcel. Said site plan also includes a detention pond area of 0.26 acres for collection of waters for drainage purposes, but also as a means of dust control, to collect waters for dust control that would then be sprayed on any of the gravel and topsoil to keep dust down for the neighbors. Dust control will be accomplished by dedicated water spray nozzles on fixed stands, distributing water mist over all gravel bins and topsoil bins. Ingress, as reflected upon the site plan, would be by dedicated lane from the westbound lane of the adjoining State Highway 70 South John Bragg Highway. Egress would be by a dedicated lane onto the westbound lane of the State Highway 70 South John Bragg Highway. In prior meetings concerning this parcel, there have been suggestions of deed restrictions on this parcel. There are deed restrictions. I think they've been rather misconstrued in past meetings. The deed restrictions are located at deed book 121, page 573 in the Rutherford County Register of Deeds office. I do have copies of that for members of the commission, if that is available. And I'll speak up so that the mics can pick me up and speak out. Okay, it's fine. thank you for passing that out. I greatly appreciate it. I had just found those, and they had been mentioned previously. As I said, I think they'd been a little bit misconstrued. The operative language is up upon the second sheet that you've been handing out. There's 2 stapled sheets there. That's page 573 and 574 of Deed Book 121, Registrar's Office, Rutherford County. At the top of the second sheet there, you'll notice deed restrictions of certain commercial uses, outdoor theaters, car repair, things of that nature, beer halls. It's 1950s language, and this was recorded in the 1950s. But there are very specific commercial uses that are not allowed. It does not; those deed restrictions do not disallow or restrict all commercial uses. Just those commercial uses listed. This use is not a commercial use listed in those deed restrictions. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there is an adjoining parcel that is a plant farm providing landscape plantings and things of that nature to the public. This would be a similar use to the adjoining parcel. And I'll turn it over to the applicant for any further comments or questions that you may have.
I have a question. I want to correct you. You said the nursery next door is zoned agriculture. You are asking for a commercial services zone, so it is a commercial service. Otherwise, you would be asking for an agricultural zone.
Right. This is a commercial, and I apologize if I said something differently. This is a commercial use. It's simply not a commercial use that is listed as a restricted commercial use in the deed restrictions that I've handed out tonight. Does that make sense? Thank you. And I think the adjoining parcel that I'm mentioning is actually residential medium, not agriculture. I think it's an agricultural use that is allowed under the Right to Farm Act in a residential medium zone because it is an agricultural use.
Other questions?
If I could make just a quick clarification, that property immediately adjacent to the property to the west was actually approved by conditional use permit back in 2000 for that business. That's why it's there the way that it is. So.
But it is residential medium, is that correct? Thank you.
Other commissioners have questions?
I have questions for the business. Are you speaking? Are you? Yep. Okay, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your operation. I'm particularly interested in, is this going to be manned, or what y'all are doing there?
So, as mentioned prior, we have a similar location over off Old Nashville Highway, and it is kind of you come in and we load up your trailer and truck, and what have you. So, it is have to be manned. Usually, for this location, we're probably just going to have one individual over there operating the machinery, and we are going to use a portable bathroom for that. That is our plan. And our hours of operation are just regular business hours, so it's not going to be occupied full time. So the need for a restroom just during work hours that's how we're going to do that. But yeah, just to answer your question, kind of generally, it's going to be a lawn and garden resale yard, kind of like the picture that was shown. Just concrete blocks is what we utilize to make up bins and store those materials. It's really it.
Do you anticipate being open all year round?
Probably not the first couple of years. Kind of, we'll have to see how it goes. It's kind of the business we're in. It's pretty seasonal. That being said, long term, we possibly could be open year round, but in the off season, pretty much the late fall, all throughout the winter, early spring. We will do restricted hours, so not on the weekends and shorter hours during the weekdays.
And looking at the site plan that was proposed here, there's no office trailer or anything indicated on here. Is that in error, or is that by your design?
Yeah, so it is like mentioned before, kiosk style. We usually just put up a little hut, like a 5x8 portable shed, to have our individual working there and just kind of get based out of. Nothing permanent.
So that is different than the operation on Old National Highway.
Yes, sir.
That's a permanent structure there, right?
Yeah.
For the office trailer, their office area there?
Yes, sir. Old National Highway is a little bit different. This is going to be more of a temporary portable shed.
Okay, thanks.
And what type of traffic are you going, trucks?
Yes, we do. We use we utilize small single axle dump trucks and tri-axle dump trucks and such. The tri-axle dump trucks mostly are just for stocking our yard, and along with that, just stocking our inventory. It's usually 3 to 5 trucks a day at max. Maybe it varies with the season, but.
Mr. Chairman, this might be a question for clarity for me from staff. How much difference is this from a sawmill that's out there considered agriculture for what a person does with this gravel and bed, maybe illegal, I don't know, but sawmill sells lumber that goes into making furniture and everything else. He's selling gravel to put, God knows where it might wind up going, or mulch or whatever. What is the difference here? Can somebody explain to me the difference between this and an agricultural business lumber?
Well, when it comes to a sawmill, if they're cutting down the trees on their own property, that's more what I would consider more of an agricultural use from the timber products and whatnot. If somebody just opens up puts a sawmill on a piece of property and people bring them the lumber, that's more of a commercial use because they're not growing anything on site. There's no agricultural use to it at all. So that's how we would differentiate it.
Yeah. Do you mind if I just add, if you're going to put a portable structure there, portable or otherwise, if you're going to put a structure there for an employee, you'll have to consider some sort of restroom, permanent restroom facilities for them. A conversation with TDEC may have to happen to get approval for a pump and haul or something like that. But be sure that that comes to our attention if this gets approved so that we can walk that through.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? If not, thank you, gentlemen. You may be seated. We'll move now into our public hearing period on this. And just like in the other one, we'll ask that if you have comments, either for or against, that you'll come forward, and you have 3 minutes for your comment. And we'll ask you to do so at this time. Let us have your name and address, please.
Hi there. Thank you for allowing me to come up here and speak tonight. My name is Matt Veer. I, my wife Jody, and my son Jake own Colorburst Plant Farm. That's the property immediately to the west of the property in question. We're an agricultural farm. We're not zoned commercially. I live and work on the property immediately west of the 2.58 acres that we're discussing. One of my most serious concerns about the acreage in question regarding the work that will need to take place to accommodate a retail facility. There's a sinkhole on the acreage that takes in tens of thousands of gallons of water every time we have a heavy rainfall. This sinkhole would need to be filled in for this facility. The land would have to be regraded and leveled to accommodate vehicles and bulk products that the gravel company sells. A large amount of the area would have to be poured with concrete to accommodate the bulk products, driveways, and areas on which the front-end loading equipment would be utilized. Everything that I just mentioned will cause heavy flooding onto our land. Filling the sinkhole, pouring concrete, adding driveways, and other impervious surfaces will cause heavy rainfall to rapidly rush onto our land, thereby flooding and washing out large parts of the areas that we use to grow plants. Now this is, can I see a picture again, Doug? All right, this is after a heavier rain event last year, right about this same time. There's a drainage ditch just to the left of that box trucks you see, and all the water overflowed, washed out all of our plants. Can you go to the next one? There were 3 pictures. Oh, okay, okay. And all of that water that rushed on from, all of the water that comes down from Floration Roads drains across our property under the barn that Mike mentioned earlier. So my fear is that if we do anything to the land, as far as adding impervious surfaces or filling in sinkholes, which are critical to our drainage out there, is that it's going to create an issue for us. If the rezoning bid passes, who will be responsible for the consequences of damages of excessive water flooding onto our property and due to the results of the water, due to the results of altering the land next to our property? Will it be Rutherford County taxpayers, the construction company that graded the land, or will it be the new landowner? Last year, Mr. Don Bruce, the current landowner of this property in question, was turned down unanimously by the Planning Commission. He tried to have a recreational vehicle and boat storage facility erected. My concern is that if Don Bruce owns the front 5 acres, is he going to try and rezone that land commercial if this 2.5 acres gets rezoned commercial? And we could end up with an RV facility or wrecked, trashed up vehicle disposal dump. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for letting me come up here.
Thank you, sir. Next.
My name is Corey Edmonds, 5712 Woodbury Pike. I've got the parcel adjacent to this property on the opposite side as Matt. Mr. Suit guy a while ago was talking about the deed, the original deed on the Book 121, page 573, and you sort of have to take into account when this was written. It was done in 1957. Commercial, residential, terms like that were not used then. They had to just bring in examples. Just because a gravel company is not mentioned on here, the whole subject of the matter contains to any commercial property. That's the intent that Mr. and Ms. Bennett that sold the property to my grandparents originally. That was their intent, was no commercial properties on the entire parcels. And just for that, I want to honor their legacy, and I'd like to continue not to have any commercial properties on here. Last time, about this time last year, we were approached for the same thing. The county attorney looked at this document. He said it stands. It was good then. I'm not sure why it's not good now. So that's all I've got, and if you have any questions, please.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, my name is Jody Supay-Veer. I live at 5546 Woodbury Pike. I own the house at 5562 Woodbury Pike, where my grandparents used to live. And my husband and I and my son own the agricultural business Colorburst Plant Farm at 5850 John Bragg Highway. I have several concerns about this rezoning request. First, due to the topography of the land next door, our land is prone to flooding whenever a heavy rain falls. Adding any type of concrete base or changing the lay of the land may negatively impact our business as well as our home by increasing flooding. Second, I've either visited or viewed several of the properties in Rutherford County that Mr. Bruce has purchased for his use. Most of them are not very well kept by either the business that he established or by the people running the business located on the property. We would like to uphold our Kidwell community standards with respect to property maintenance and value. Third, we already have crime and traffic issues due to Dollar General, its retail commercial presence at the corner of Coleman and John Bragg. While it's a convenient place to pick up last-minute items, it's also a place for deals to be made in the parking lot at night. Thankfully, our law enforcement officers are often present at the intersection for speeding violations and other transactions that may occur in the parking lot. I would like to avoid placing something right next to a residential area that would encourage more traffic, especially with respect to the houses adjacent to the property. The added noise, dust, and dirt created by the type of inventory we have been told they will be selling could also be problematic. I'm also concerned about a change in the rezoning because of what has happened right down the street on Woodbury Highway. A rezoning hearing a couple of years ago approved 2 commercial sites, one for Watson's Well Company and one for Timco Construction. Watson's has obviously abided by the approved plans. They have a nice barn and an entranceway. They've worked hard to be an asset to the community. On the other hand, Timco has yet to put up any buildings. All trucks, equipment, and sometimes trash are left sitting out in the open. One evening while I was driving by their property, I had to call 911 for the Kidwell Fire Department to come put out a fire they left unattended. It was spreading toward their equipment. It is basically an unkept storage area. At one point, will someone be checking on this issue? My point is that when you bring a commercial interest to a residential area, it can either help add value to an area or it can devalue an area. The house and land by Timco have taken a visual hit because of the lack of professional responsibility Timco has taken for its property. I don't want to see that happen to the land by us. My last concern is the fact that the land deed from Mr. Bennett states that the land is not to be used for a variety of commercial reasons. This deed was notarized and approved many years ago. I feel this should continue to be honored today. I'm truly worried that if Mr. Bruce, through the sale of this property, is able to get this portion of the land rezoned, that he will then follow through with the remaining property. This was split into a family neighborhood that has been intact since the 1950s. As long as I can remember, the Edmonds, Sanfords, and Supes have used the land for family living and farming. And while some of the property has changed hands due to the deaths of our elders, much of it is used by family today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name's Casey Vaughn. I actually live at 4071 High Ship. You'll notice that's 3 to 4 miles away. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the word karst, blue hole, or sinkhole. Everyone in that area connects. We already have major flooding on Craner Road. It already runs across the road at Ringwald, and it's not being corrected. If you'll look, the bridge at Ringwald is about to go out, but the water is crossing the road in multiple spots already. Whether you fill this sinkhole or add more concrete and dump more water, you're contributing to flooding. Second off, John Bragg was originally created for a scenic highway. There's only one business, Hayes Brothers, that actually comes out on John Bragg. The dollar store and the new property at Murfreesboro Street exit onto side streets. Third, we're not against all commercial in our neighborhood, not at any means. We just want anything that's brought before us to be equal or better to anything else in the county. Don't come dump trash on us. That's all we're asking. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Tracy Whipple, and I live at 6068 Woodbury Pike, which is very close to this location, just off Floration and John Bragg. And I'm in the horticulture industry. I was actually shopping today at the plant farm. I need those plants for jobs here in Murfreesboro. And I also do need gravel too, but there is a place on Old Nashville Highway, and that's where we get gravel from. I'm nervous about it because John Bragg is such a busy street. It is so hard for me to turn left onto Floration without having somebody right behind me so close that I'm afraid they're going to rear end me because it just won't give me a chance to turn into my neighborhood. something like a plant farm that's wholesale is dealing with is just a handful of customers during daylight hours. Something like this as a gravel yard, I don't know what kind of traffic that would bring. It also kind of disappoints me that it would be a seasonal thing. What happens the rest of the season? Being a female and being in horticulture, a porta potty on that property, what if I wanted to get a job there and I need a facility? Like, where is this person gonna spend a storm? I mean, we get tornadoes. Where does that person seek shelter if weather comes through unexpectedly? I didn't know about it until I saw the little tiny sign on John Bragg last week, and it was pretty interesting to get into the nursery to find out what was happening this time, because we were just here a year ago, and I'm not pro for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Cheryl Edmonds. I live at 57.
Could you pull the mic down just a little bit? Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Edmonds. I live at 5762 Woodbury Road. My husband's family owned this whole area at one time. And my concern is, even when we get water now, and it goes across mats and down the road, and it goes into Dry Creek and floods it. It has that part of Coleman, besides Dollar General, has been flooded several times just in the last few months. So that's my concern too. How is all that water going to go? And Dry Creek can't handle it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Robert P.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little hoarse tonight, if some of you know my voice, so I'm going to try to keep things as short as I can. I had talked to the gentleman that is the applicant tonight, and first thing I tell him, and I tell everybody that calls me, is go out there and talk to your neighbors. Let them know what you want to do, and you know, I'd like to help him, but if you've got neighbors over there that don't want what you're offering, then more than likely I'm not going to be able to support it. That happens to be the case here. We had talked about, you know, just having some gravel bins and some mulch, no talk at all about a store. So that kind of caught me by surprise, but I mentioned a couple of things. Last time we were here, we had a petition with between 1,000 and 1,600 signatures. Now, they could have brought that back again this time. They didn't. They didn't have as many people stacked up here. They could have brought them in again too, but they trust y'all to do the will of the community out there. As one of the gentlemen mentioned, this is a scenic highway. We'd like to keep it scenic. The fear that most of them have is if you allow a commercial zoning, then that could change. You know, this gentleman's business might fail, but if he's got commercial zoning, that opens up the door for another business. And I think that's one of the main fears. They'd like to keep this agricultural or residential homes. One other thing I do want to mention, and Ms. Bell, you know, pretty much hit the nail on the head. There are no soils there to put in a bathroom. If there are no soils there, you cannot have a facility. Am I correct, Ms. Bell?
If there's a structure.
So I think that kind of nails it down for the Planning Commission. But anyway, I would ask you to deny under these circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here this evening. Anyone else? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Questions or motion?
I have a lot of concerns about this. The first and foremost is knowing that there's no soils there. and that they're going to have someone out there all the time during business hours. So that's my main concern, along with all the others that were expressed. So I'm going to move that we deny this application.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? If not, please call the roll. Do you exactly have the motion? Please read the motion.
Michael Shirley moved, seconded by Charlotte P. to deny the rezoning request due to his concerns with being no bathroom facilities on the site, as well as others.
Okay.
Jim Averwater,
Yes.
Jeff Phillips. Mike Cush. Lee Bogle. Charlotte P. Trey Gooch.
Yes.
Jim Thompson. Michael Shirley.
Yes.
Jason Beavers. Pettis Reed.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Carried. Moving now to item 3. Whitfield Hamilton, REZ 25003, location 8808 Manchester Pike. Commissioner District is 6, Jonathan Beverly. Size of sites approximately 171 acres. Tax map is 156, parcel 6. Existing zoning is residential medium density, RM. Proposed zoning is planned unit development, or a PUD, for manufacturing facility. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going to be referring several times to their pattern book. There is a copy of the pattern book on your iPads. We can refer to that on the big screens too if necessary. But like I said, I'll be referring to that on a number of occasions here, so just bear with me. According to their pattern book, the proposed, and this comes right out of their book, the proposed tenant intends to rezone this property from RM to PUD, with the use being primarily light industrial in nature. The standards for this development were modeled after those required for the light industrial district, but has restricted many of the uses to limit the number of potential adverse uses. The PUD is for approximately 273,240 square feet light assembly and manufacturing facility with a small accessory assembly building. It will also include parking for the current number of employees, as well as enough for near-term growth anticipated by the tenant. The pattern book, and this is on page 5, which is PDF page 7, it shows the phase 1 concept plan. Mike actually has that right up on the screen. Future expansions are shown on page 11 of the pattern book, but their pattern book specifically states that any expansions would require a PUD amendment. So should this application be approved, they would have to come back for any amendments. This would just be for phase 1. You will see, and Mike can highlight this if you go back to that, there's an expansion pad to be graded with phase 1 of the construction that he's kind of highlighting right there. They wouldn't put any buildings there. It would just be while they're out there doing the grading work, they would grade that area as well since they're already out there. So that's their proposed plan, is what they're looking to do. There are architectural elevations shown on page 6 of the PDF page 8 of the pattern book. Allowable uses are described also within the pattern book. This list, when it was first submitted, was considerably longer than it is now. It has been better defined and reduced. However, the Plan Commission may want to look at that and see if they'd like to pare it down any more than it already is. The applicant has held 2 neighborhood meetings for this application. I did include the summaries of both of those meetings with your agenda packets. The pattern book does show proposed improvements to the intersection of Epps Mill Road and Manchester Pike, which will also include access into the subject property. The applicants are proposing temporary access with the existing alignment of Epps Mill Road intersection, complete with a traffic signal. When the proposed improvements that TDOT has planned for this Epps Mill Road, the exit 89 interchange, as well as the Manchester Pike and Epps Mill Road intersection, when those are completed, this existing intersection will be shifted slightly to the south, and they would install a new traffic signal at that time as part of their overall improvement project. The traffic study has been completed for this project and reviewed by our traffic consultant. Our consultant's review says that the study recommends that the Manchester Pike Epps Mill Road intersection be include signalization with this project, which is not currently planned on the TDOT improvement project, which again they are showing. There's emphasis placed on the need for coordination and decision between the applicant, county, and TDOT when it comes to finalizing the details about temporary driveway, and then to utilize the improvements with with the TDOT project. So we can answer additional questions on the traffic study during after our staff presentation. Of course, if this would be approved, an engineer site plan would be required to be brought back to the Planning Commission prior to any building construction occurring. Non-residential PUDs do not require open space set-asides. However, most of this site, as they're showing it, will remain undisturbed except for that first phase. Page 5, which is PDF page 7 of the pattern book, shows a separation of about 725 feet from the proposed Phase 1 building to the closest properties on Cobb Road. The proposed Phase 2 expansion, shown later in the pattern book, reduces that distance to 158 feet. However, they are proposing a Type 3 buffer along those properties, along with a 20-foot high maximum berm. Again, a site plan would have to be submitted, which shows all that should this application be approved. Our performance standards also do require all commercial industrial type uses to adhere to any sound, noise pollution, or lighting pollution issues. You will see that there is a proposed lighting plan included with your agenda packets as well. Just for a little bit of backstory with this particular application, we did send review comments on the pattern book to the applicant's team back in January. We did meet with this applicant's team virtually once, and we've met physically as well. But we did meet virtually to discuss those comments back again in January, in person on February 6th. At that time, the applicant's team expressed the desire to place the item on the March 10th agenda. We did receive the revised pattern book the afternoon of February 27th, which was immediately prior to the second scheduled neighborhood meeting for that evening. Following that meeting and further discussion with the applicant's team, this item was removed from the March agenda, and we had additional meetings with the applicant's team and have asked for refinements in the pattern book, which have been incorporated into the current version. We've also had multiple conversations with residents surrounding the subject property. Their concerns will likely be discussed at greater length. There's quite a few people here. I think most of them are here for this item. Some of them include the appropriateness of the proposed use of the area, considering its rural nature, traffic concerns, and environmental concerns as well. I will say that the property is currently zoned residential medium density, as was discussed earlier. Of course, in a perfect world, a maximum yield based on the minimum lot size and the size of this property would be about 510 single-family lots. Now, obviously, this is not a perfect world we're talking about. We don't believe that this is a realistic number, as there are several factors that need to be considered when you're determining lot yields, such as, first of all, probably most importantly, septic soil availability, set-asides for road easements, stormwater detentions, floodplains, wetlands areas, et cetera. Most of our RM developments will typically range between 1 and 1.5 units per acre, which makes a more realistic yield, about 170 to 255. But again, a lot of that is dependent upon the septic soil. I will state that our current comprehensive plan shows this area identified in the Epps Mill Road Employment Center. Now, again, as we've discussed many times in the past, just because a property is identified in a growth center does not mean that it will or necessarily should automatically be rezoned for any kind of non-residential development. As I've said many times, there's always a timing element involved in these kind of things. So the Planning Commission will need to consider all the available infrastructure in the area, the provision of such infrastructure prior to making any kind of a recommendation. With that, there are members of the applicant's team here. I imagine they'll probably want to make a small presentation or make some comments to the commission, and we'll have our public hearing following that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will point out on your iPads, we have received several emails and phone calls, as you can imagine, at the office on this. The ones that I did receive, I tried to put them all into a single PDF file for your just for your reference. There are some in there that are in opposition. We did receive some in favor as well, so I will point that out. So with that, again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for the staff? David Water.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That might be what I'm looking for. Adjoining property uses across the street, and looks like residential.
It's primarily residential in that area, yes. Now, when you start going down Epps Mill Road, you start running, it might just print up the zoning of the property. The property immediately across at 8830, it's got a split zone on it. It's zoned partially a small portion of it zoned residential, I'd say maybe a fifth or so of the property, and then the remaining is EAC. That was actually zoned that way. They were looking for zoning the entire property. That was the former Brenda Benz property. That application was brought in originally looking for the whole tract to be zoned EAC. That was a concession that was made to leave that portion right along Manchester Pike zoned for residential purposes, and they zoned the remaining portion of it EAC.
Anyone else?
Doug, you mentioned improvements to Epps Mill Road. What's the time frame?
The TDOT just came out with their updated 10-year plan. The construction of those are still shown for 2026. So that has not changed since the staff report was written.
Anyone else?
Real quickly, Doug, what's shown on page 11 of the pattern book on the north end of the property at Delbridge Road? What's that going to be?
Okay, just bear with a second. Let me get to that.
Just curiosity.
I think, yeah, pull up yeah, there you go. Was it the PDF page 11 or the actual page number, page 11?
Have on our iPad. Sorry,
Okay,
it's
that's,
the
well,
Horn.
it could be one or the other. We'll check one, and if that's not it, we'll check the other.
Looks like some outbuilding with a long.
Yeah, I think that's for a future phase. I'll let the applicant speak to that. It's not identified on there, but I think that there was some talk about putting like Mike was saying, like a little retreat or something like that.
For that,
I'm sorry.
Another phase.
That'd
for
be a
that
future
area?
phase. Yeah, the area you can see there in the dark, the dashed outline. You can kind of see Michael kind of highlight it. Yeah, that's phase one. That's what they're looking for today for any kind of approval.
And phase 2 is the proposed and graded area.
Correct. Well, yeah, future phases at that point would be.
What is the long driveway up at Delbridge Road and the building they're showing on the other side of the creek?
Is that the one you were talking about earlier? I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the same one you were talking about earlier.
One?
Yeah, that's the same
Yes.
building. Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm understanding what you're asking me. Yeah. Okay.
Just curious what it is.
Yeah, I believe it's. Yeah, I believe it. And that, like I said, the applicant could speak a little bit more to that, but I think it's shown for display purposes. But even if this is approved, that won't be at this point. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I need someone from our IT department to come and restart my iPad if it's frozen. So I cannot see
They
anything.
probably heard you, but I'll shoot them a text
Thank
real
you.
quick.
Anyone else? Mr. Cush?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug and Michael, that particular slide that you have up, the drainage area, the Knox Branch, Hurricane Creek, the vegetation, the trees, is that a realistic, what am I trying to say? Is that a realistic model of the existing natural buffers that are there, or is that a modified simulation?
Yes. Here's 2023, I think, 24 aerial, and you can see the stream buffers on each side here, and then this wooded area in the back. But this is I'll try to zoom in. Whoops, wrong way.
Okay, and if you can put your cursor where the building phase 1 and 2 would be?
The building will be in this general vicinity here.
Okay, all right.
The phase 1 building, and then it'll have an expansion out this way to the southeast.
Okay, all right. So from a drainage standpoint, it doesn't appear like there's going to be any issue in terms of capacity, flow. I mean, everything's going to naturally drain to the creeks. There's no red flags in that.
No, sir. They'll still have to do all their stormwater management to offset the new impervious, but their plan is to keep the streams and stream buffers, and we would not allow them to disturb those anyway.
This would not impact any neighbor, in terms of hydraulics or flooding.
Oh no,
like that.
anything that happens in Rutherford County would have to meet our standards.
Well, I understand, but I guess what I'm saying is this particular development, the site itself is going to handle.
Yes, sir.
Any changes.
Yes,
they
sir.
would not impact any neighbor in terms of flood, flooding or anything like that?
Yes, sir, and we would have to see a site plan as well. They've identified, let me go back to the previous slide if this doesn't lock up. So they've identified stormwater management areas on their Phase 1 plan, if I can get there. Oops, wrong way, sorry. There we go. So they've got a stormwater management area outside of that. They're preserving all of the stream buffers, the wooded areas. They're staying out of the FEMA flood zone on all areas on the property. And they're just, it's kind of deceptive because they're just developing a smaller area, not the entire property. I mean, it's just a particular plan.
Okay, all right. And I've got future questions about egress, ingress, and then lighting, but I'm sure that'll all be addressed with the presentation and
So
later,
like Doug
later
mentioned, egress, ingress is, they're going to have, their entrance will line up with the current location of Epps Mill, and they're going to put in a traffic signal at that location. It'll be a cable traffic signal, and then once Epps Mill is moved over in roughly this location, their new entrance would be built out to it, and it would be a mast arm traffic signal as well, and then turn lanes as well to match the TDOT improvements. And I've got those on here if you'd like to see those. Might take a second. But these are the TDOT improvements for this section. This is Manchester Highway. This is the existing location of Epps Mill, and it will be moved to more of a 90-degree intersection here. It'll have turn lanes on each end. Their entrance their future entrance will line up with this new location. Their original temporary entrance will line up with this existing location of Epps Mill.
Well, let me ask pardon the pun, a loaded question. Would a development like this would it tend to perhaps accelerate the TDOT beginning start date for the Epps Mill project?
Right. The 10-year plan, like Doug mentioned, they're still showing 2026 is the start of construction. So I would say
around the corner anyway.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, I got a question. That's a great shot right there, and I really do like that drawing. I like what they're doing to the Epps Mill. This plant's gonna have Manchester Highway address. What did they quit for down through there? When's Manchester Highway? What's the date on getting Manchester Highway taken care of back into Murfreesboro for folks that live out there?
I'm not aware of anything on a time frame for that right now, that improvement.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
I have a question on this photo right here. I'm thinking that shows across at the corner of Epps Mill, that would be the southwest corner of Epps Mill in Manchester there. That shows, I guess, pretty much natural land there. But I was thinking that there was, did I see a bunch of trailers parked in there or something? It looked like maybe it was a rental place or something.
There is I think you're talking about the place it's actually along Miller Lane, the new Miller Lane probably. It was on the aerial shot, I think it's probably, yeah. That's probably what you're referring to. That was approved, 2-3 years ago, something like that. There was a site plan we saw for that. Yeah, right in there.
Yeah, those are construction trailers I think, that they rent out.
Okay. And then that's that other piece there just to the southeast of that trailer place there. That's like an event center or a
Correct. That was Ms. Benz's property in the past. That's the one that's got the EAC on the majority of it, but then the frontage area, including that structure, is zoned RM.
Mr. Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug, I know that I've received some calls, and this question I think is appropriate at this time instead of holding off on it. But can you go over, this is being rezoned, or the request is to have it rezoned as a PUD.
Correct.
For this specific building, we're looking at phase 1, right? So
Correct.
and then they've indicated phase 2 and on there. But can you explain the difference between, or what would trigger, this development after phase 1 coming back before the Planning Commission? And would any of those require a public hearing for the PUD amendment?
Mm-hmm. For anything that's deemed a substantial deviation, when I say substantial deviation, I'm talking things like they completely changed the location of the building, the uses are different than what is proposed in the pattern book. Essentially, they're being held to what's approved in the pattern book if this application be approved. Any kind of a significant deviation from that would have to be brought back to this body for consideration, a public hearing here, a public hearing before the Board of Commissioners. It's basically the same process. They would have to do the neighborhood meeting before the application. They'd have to have a public hearing here. The notifications we would send out would be the same. Nothing in that regard would change.
What would they be allowed without coming back before the commission?
In our zoning ordinance in Chapter 9, it gives a list of what are considered substantial deviations. Let's say the building location shifted by 5 or 10 feet, probably not a big deal. Let's say that they've when they try to put these pattern books together, they try to build in a little bit of flexibility as far as uses. So if the uses are similar, or if they're listed, it can be this type of facility, that type of facility. Those kind of things wouldn't require any kind of a public hearing. But if they wanted to change it to something that wasn't listed, that's when it would have to come back.
In this particular example, we see that it says the expansion pad to be graded with phase 1, but will be constructed with future phases.
Correct.
Would they have to come back for would they have to come back for a public hearing to build that all the way to 158 feet away from the Cobb Road?
Yes, they would.
So that would be a substantial, even though we're
Correct.
approving it and they've indicated that it could be a future building, that would require another public hearing.
Yes, and they're very well aware of that and have built that into their pattern book. Yes, sir.
About the retreat building.
That would be part of it as well.
Off of Delbridge.
Correct. What they're showing on here is basically what they're asking for tonight. So any kind of a retreat, any kind of whatever other uses they might be proposing, a phase 2 expansion, anything like that, they are very specific in here that they are just asking for phase 1 right now.
So even though that retreat center is indicated on this map, that before they can break ground on it, they would have to come back for a public hearing?
That is correct. Yeah, if you go back to that map, you'll see the phase 1 that's being proposed, and I forget what page that was on, Mike, but
phase 1 is everything inside the dashed line?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But anything constructed outside of that dashed line, even if they prep the pad, anything outside of that dashed line, anything built outside of that dashed line would require a public hearing.
Correct. And let me just make sure I'm clear of what you said. They are proposing to prep the pad in phase 1, but anything beyond that would have to come back.
The pad can be prepped, but before any construction can happen outside of that dashed line, they would be required to come back for a public hearing.
That's correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, I'm going to assume, and I know that's dangerous, will they be testing live rounds in this proposed manufacturing facility?
You would want that to ask the applicant that question. They have a list of different activities that they're proposing. I do believe that they are showing like an enclosed tunnel, for that kind of use, but I would rather the applicant confirm or not confirm that.
And I would assume that would be the case. And I'm also going to assume that at their current location off 24, they did the same practice.
Correct. I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
Question to Tanya is, Tanya, have you ever had any noise complaints at the existing manufacturing facility in terms of sound or gunfire or explosive type?
I have not received ever the first noise complaint.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Vogel.
I know this is early and we're not in any sort of approval or site plan phase, but is it wise to mix the truck traffic they're proposing and the workers, the passenger cars? Because I only see the one entrance. I was kind of expecting to see a proposal for more entrances or something.
Well, and I'll let the applicant speak a little more to this, but from what I understand, I mean, they're on a state road, so, TDOT's going to be, in control to a large extent as far as how many access points they have. I believe they really only want the one access point just for security purposes, and from my understanding, the amount of truck traffic that they have on a daily basis is fairly nominal compared to the amount of employee traffic. But again, I'll let them confirm that.
Anyone else? If not, we'll ask that the applicants come forward at this time. Good evening.
So we're starting off with me. So good evening. My name is Bryan James. I'm the CEO of Barrett Firearms. And I first want to thank everybody for coming here and listening to our proposals, because it's very important to us. Excuse me. But I just want to speak a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing. And so just a little bit of brief history on Barrett Firearms. Barrett was born and raised here, right? 1982. Ronnie Barrett was born and raised here. So I want to take you on just a little bit of a journey so you can see why we're doing what we're doing, because it is very important for us. It's very important for the local folks to all be involved. So in 1990, Ronnie Barrett moved his facility from Barfield, where the World Outreach Church is now, over to Manchester Highway. And the address was actually, I wrote it down, 8211. Which is exactly 3/4 of a mile north of the current facility, of the current area we're looking to move to. He was there for about 13 years till 2003, and he moved down to the Miller Lane. The proposal is that we be there from 2003 until 2027. If approved, then we move to the new site. The reason that's important is because we keep getting more and more contracts with the U.S. military and our international partners. And so we are the selected primary rifle of choice for precision rifles for the U.S. military, and have been since 1990. And all that work comes from Murfreesboro. And we're born and raised Murfreesboro. I moved here in 2011 for this job, and it's a great work environment. It's a great family that we have. We're family owned. And so I'd like to talk about all the things that we're doing and how we got to this point. So in 1990, Ronnie got his first contract. In 2003, he got his second contract. That second contract was about 10 times the first contract. All right, in 2018, we got another contract. That was 10 times the second contract. Now we are working with the U.S. government on another large contract. I had 24 folks from the U.S. Army Acquisition School at the office today citing us up to see if we could handle another large contract, and we're maxed out. So we're going to have to move. We are packed to the gills at 5926 Miller Lane. So I'd like to point that out. I also like to point out what we do for the community. And the first is TCAT. We currently have 193 employees. 54 of those employees are graduates of the Tennessee Center for Applied Technology. So either the Murfreesboro, Smyrna, or one of the other ones. We also partner with MTSU, and we have an ongoing program under contract from MTSU. So as employees come in, they can, if they're working there for 5 years, we can then put them through their bachelor's degree and get that. So we're not just bringing in jobs, we're bringing in jobs and then educating those and being higher paying jobs. The last is for advanced education, which is through the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I'm a graduate of that program. My education was paid for. And now I'm returning that back to the company with all the great things that we're doing, not just in the U.S., but across the world, because we are currently operating in 80 separate countries that are U.S. State Department approved. So that's a little bit of the history. You know, the rifle that Ronnie designed and sold to the military, was designated as one of the 10 greatest military implements ever devised. And that's pretty special to have right here in Murfreesboro. And we love Murfreesboro, and we want to stay here in the county.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Arts. I'm with Kimley Horn. I'm one of the civil engineers working on this. I'll adjust it. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Arts. I'm with Kimley Horn. I'm one of the civil engineers on the property. A couple of the questions that kind of came out from what y'all were talking about, from a drainage perspective, the site does actually lend itself really well for us. We do have a very clear discharge point we get right out into the stream after treatment and detention per county regulations. We don't have, or we haven't noted any karst features really on the site, so we don't have the sinkhole issues that we can run into in other locations. We're adhering to all of the stream buffer regulations and generally trying to maintain tree masses wherever they exist today. Obviously, where we're grading, we can't, but we tried to keep most of our development within sort of the main area of the site. From the traffic perspective, at this time, we're only expecting about 1 tractor trailer per week. I'm sure that will grow as the business continues to grow, but we don't have a significant trailer demand for this site, so the singular point of access works fine. As well as I mentioned with TDOT, it's hard to get multiple access points. We'll have to include an emergency access somewhere, but it won't be active for anything other than emergency purposes. And then the other part, just in talking about TDOT, we got an email this morning confirming that they are still planning on having it done or started in 2026, and it's a 3-year timeline. So we're working in close coordination with them to make sure that our improvements from our traffic study mesh with their improvements from what they're doing, because we do know that Manchester Pike is a difficult to manage roadway at times, and so we're really intent on incorporating the traffic signal at the intersection. So if you have any questions related to the design of the site or the engineering of it, I'm happy to answer them.
Have y'all, I'm sure y'all been in meetings with TDOT already. Do they still seem to be pretty confident on 2026 start time?
Yes. I think they're working on a letter to kind of put it in writing that they're going to do that, but we did get the email again this morning confirming that they're planning to start next year.
I have a question for you. I just want to confirm that there are no plans or intents to cross that stream and connect the other side of the property with this side of the property.
Correct. Not even in the future phases that we currently have idealized out. But at this time, we're sticking to just what's on that phase 1 page, phase 1 only. Anything beyond that would have to come back before the community and before this body.
My name is Whitfield Hamilton, and I'm the developer on the project. I represent the development team, Hamilton Development. Just to kind of continue on some of the neighborhood feedback that we have heard, we held 2 neighborhood meetings, have worked closely with the Rutherford County Planning Department to be very specific in the pattern book and this application. And one of the things to call that was a question around, I think Planning Commissioner Shirley had around the expansion pad. We're being very purposeful in running a process where anything beyond this phase 1, you have to come back through this exact process. So Barrett, who's been at this intersection for 40 years, been great neighbors. I kind of held my breath when I heard noise complaints be an asked question in a 20-year history of a building. To hear that there have been none, I think is a great testament to how Barrett runs their operations, much less going into the $80 million of economic impact that this is going to bring to this exact area. We do anticipate that this can accelerate the TDOT improvements, but can't make that promise, obviously. We have to coordinate that with the improvements we're proposing. And throughout the neighborhood meetings, to go back to that, a lot of what you see in this pattern book are explicit changes that we took from those neighborhood meetings, talking to neighbors, like the berms around Cobb Road, the berm along Manchester Pike, limiting Delbridge Road access. So in the pattern book, we show a road in a lodge concept. That is a concept to have like a small lodge like the one on Manchester Pike across the street where we held the neighborhood meeting, to host international clients and have a few bedrooms and a place where you could have somewhere a little bit more private because of the nature of business that Barrett has. Bryan could probably speak to that a little bit more. But that would be a phase 2 effort, and we show the road on Delbridge Road, but you'd have to go through this process again to go build that. I'll turn it over to Jeff if you have anything else, but okay. Otherwise, we're happy to answer questions while we're up here.
Mr. Chairman. There are 3 main issues that people have called and expressed concern about. One is traffic, one is light pollution, one is noise pollution. I think you kind of talked about noise already, but can you discuss your light pollution, talk about the photometric plan for this facility, and then also traffic, whatever you have talked with TDOT already, can you tell us about those discussions?
Sure, yeah. From the lighting perspective, we won't have any foot candles crossing our property line. And we're set far enough back. I mean, the property's several hundred feet away, especially where we're at today. So we won't have any foot candles of lighting crossing. I'm sure there's lighting requirements that we're going to have to hit from a security perspective, at least internal to the site, but they won't be directed outwards in that regard. From the traffic perspective, yeah, TDOT and everybody here acknowledges that Manchester Pike is not great. We've identified in our traffic study that a southbound left turn into our development will be required, and then that the Warren analyses were met for a signal at that intersection with or without our development. Actually, it meets it today. So those are the incorporated improvements for our plan, and then TDOT is also adding a southbound right turn and a northbound left turn. So we had a couple calls with them, talked to them recently, and basically the results of the calls are we need to keep talking and make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we can mesh our improvements together so that we have a cohesive product when it's all done.
I don't know if you can commit to this or not, but this was brought up to me by one of the people in the community. Instead of just having that stoplight be on a timer, is having it be on like the smart light system with the cameras that will, because if the interstate gets shut down at Beech Grove or at Epps Mill, that intersection, it'll be nice to have a light. As someone that lives in that community, it'll be nice to have a light that I know I'm going to be able to turn left. Somebody will have to let me in line.
Yep.
But the thought is, if it's on a timer, only one truck will be able to get through it. And can you all commit, even if TDOT doesn't require it, will you all commit tonight to making that a smart light versus a timer?
Yeah, it will either be a radar detection system or a loop detection system in the pavement so that it'll trigger when someone pulls up to it. So it'll be incorporated.
And that it responds for if the interstate shut down and everybody's heading to Manchester Highway, the algorithm will alter the light pattern?
Right, and TDOT's installing a couple additional signals west of there, so it'll have to coordinate with those and kind of work in a corridor function so that those all talk to each other when it does trigger, so that those will hopefully help ease as much as they can in the current system, the traffic headache there.
I know the residents on Cobb Road are very concerned about losing their view, and the ones that I've spoken with, they understand that this property is going to have something there. And what is appropriate is up to discussion depending on who you talk to. But I know you all have changed your plan from the first time I saw it at the first community meeting to what I saw about a 20-foot tall, is that 20-foot tall berm?
It varies. It starts out about 10 feet tall, and then it progresses to about 20 feet tall on the eastern corner.
And are you all going to make that berm that size now or with phase 2? Now. So it'll be now.
Correct.
And can you talk about that design and what plantings you're going to have there?
It will be basically compliant with the Type 3 landscape buffer for Rutherford County. So the native plantings, I forget the exact spacing offhand, but it is the more restrictive landscape buffer that's within the zoning regulations.
Yeah. And My understanding is that that's not, the type 3 is not required, but it was something coming out of one of the neighborhood meetings to commit to the type 3 of a mix of evergreen, shrubs, and other type trees, so.
If I can interject, industrial against residential is a type 3, so that would be required. Now, the 20-foot buffer, berm, that's just part of that. So any kind of a solid visual screen, berm, fence, whatever, that'll reduce the amount of plantings you have to have, but it is a type 3 that's required.
Where does it show where that berm will be located? Because I don't see that on. Is there a map that shows where the berm will be? Is it all around the whole property?
It's abutting the residential development, so where the type 3 buffer would be required. And then it ends where we hit the existing tree line so that we can preserve the native existing vegetation that's there today. So it kind of wraps.
Okay, there I see it. Okay.
The rightmost, yeah. So that area is where the berm and landscape buffer combined will be. And then, like I said, it ends where we hit existing trees so that we don't have to rip out good old trees.
Sure.
Other questions? Commissioner?
I think this question is for you, but to understand what you were saying is that the need for this facility is because the demand is more than the supply that can be supplied from the current facility, and this is to produce the gun. In what landed you on this site?
So,
another site.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we pick this site? So one, obviously, is proximity to our current facility, that we were a mile or less than a mile north. Now we're a third of a mile south. So it's that interchange there, because there were other sites that we considered. Actually, the state offered up free land for us, 300 acres, and we turned them down because it was too far of a commute for our employees. So the fact that we're moving halfway back to where we originally started, plus it's right off the interstate, it's one turn off the interstate straight into the facility, helped, plus the fact that TDOT was going to improve that entire interchange to begin with. So there was a lot of those things that led to the selection of this site.
And so the current facility will remain open as far as production, or will it close?
It will during the transition. And so it's not going to be closed one day and open the next. So there will be a period of months where we're moving machines, because these are precision machines making precision rifles. So they have to be treated very carefully. So it won't be everything moves over there on day one we start. So I'm imagining a 6-month transition where we'll have production on both sides.
But ultimately, the original site will close.
Yes, sir. So Ronnie Barrett owns that facility. We lease it from him currently, and it would be returned. We would end our lease with it.
I'll add to that, and Barrett had a unique requirement in not needing to be next to other existing buildings for security reasons. So to have the buffer that this property does for this site is very unique in our line of business, and that was something that they had a requirement for.
Yeah, so if I could speak a little bit more to that, we are a Department of Defense designated secure facility, which means from the fence to the inside, it's secure, and the DoD comes out and tests our security. Because of that, we cannot be next to adjacent buildings because they're worried about either sharing a wall and somebody busting through or tunneling down under with an adjacent building. So this site, 170 acres of which we're going to use about a third of it, and that natural buffer in the back is going to be fantastic for that. And we've gone so far as talking about replanting native grasses. I contacted, we work a lot with Delta Waterfowl. Delta Waterfowl came out and looked at that area and said it was good wood duck habitat. So they're going to install some wood duck boxes back there to help improve. But the idea is we never touch that back there. It's scenic, it's beautiful, and we're going to keep it just like that.
Mr. Chairman, we've addressed, a lot of people will have complaints or concerns about traffic, number one. We've addressed that as much as we possibly can right now. Lighting, noise, I think we've addressed those. A lot of people will have water concerns what are we doing? Mike, you might jump in. People have concerns about flooding, how we're going to retain water. Just briefly discuss what you're going to do there, maybe to answer some of the questions that I know will be coming up.
Yes, so the standard for county detention requirements is we have to detain the water to pre-development levels. So whatever was going off our site, we cannot exceed that flow rate after our development is complete. And then we also have to do water quality treatment. And so we generally tend to do those with what's called a micropool extended detention pond. Basically, it just means we're going to hold the water back for a really long time so that all the dirt can settle out before we actually let it go into the stream. So those are generally the methods that we're applying to both detain the water and release it at a slow rate, as well as treat it for sediment and total suspended solids. And then in addition, any incursion into the floodplain area will have to be balanced 1-to-1 to make sure that the total storage available in any flooding events is not impacted in any way.
Mike, just to answer those questions that may be coming up, any water that we will retain will probably improve the drainage of that area instead of causing more harm to adjacent property owners.
Yes, sir. And also, they have identified existing wetlands on the property that they're going to preserve those. So they're going to keep those and probably use them for duck blinds or something like that, too. What's that? Boxes. Okay. Bye. Boxes. But yes, any improvements to the site, the imperviousness, much like traffic, they have to evaluate what's leaving the site before development and what's happening after, and we have to be at that pre-development stage levels or less.
Vogel.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, if I may. I know there's a lot of people who work there locally, grew up around the area and everything, but could you confirm or help me understand that the company was sold correctly to an overseas company?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, that I just want to make sure that if that was fact, and do they have the same commitment and the same philosophy and the same business model that would continue on in the way that this company's operate? I know you can't really say things change, but
there's probably no one better qualified to talk about this than me, because I was the one who introduced buyer to seller. And so so basically we have a 50-year-old family company that is the largest producer of non-guided munitions in Australia. That 50-year-old family company bought the 40-year-old family company. It's called the Naya family. They're out of Brisbane, Australia. They are huge conservationists. They own a 3,500-acre tract, an original sheep station from the 1870s, which is really old for Australia, and that's all pristine, preserved. And so it was actually their idea to keep all these wetlands and everything. And I'll give you just one example. There's an old chimney on that facility that looks like it belonged to a cabin. And so the first thing Rob Naya, the owner, wanted to do was move that chimney and turn it into a barbecue area out back, so we can, if possible, we can still reuse it. So that's an example of the stuff they want. The two families work fantastic together. We're just over 2 years into this. But ownership did change from one family to the next. It just happens to be it's an Australian family.
And those are good to hear. I think where I'm kind of going with this, I know we talk about traffic and drainage and a lot of other things, but I think for my concern, I grew up in this community, and the security, because you've got a global footprint, global notoriety, the contracts are getting bigger, and just for me, I get a little antsy about the security. I know you meet DOD certain requirements, but still becomes a target. And I don't want that to, it may be the best use for the property, it may not, we'll determine that together, but that's one concern that kind of stuck out to me, because as it grows and gets bigger, which we want businesses to be able to do, I just get a concern of the security risks that go along with that. I know you can't guarantee anything, but I do have that in the back of my mind for this area.
Yeah, and so I've been in small arms firearms business for 32 years. I worked at Glock and I worked at Smith & Wesson, and they were in plain sight, and no security issues. We don't expect anything here. We do have an action plan in case there is. We do have all of the cameras, all the armed security guards, and an evac plan if we need to. And that's not just for if an incursion happens, that's for tornadoes, things like that. So, but we also get tested on it every year. And so then one of the things we do further is we'll go out to third parties and we'll pull them in and have them assess. So we work really closely with the folks at Langley. And so a couple years ago, I hired their director of security and said, come review our facility. And he saw some stuff we needed to change, and we changed it. So it's not just us saying it's secure, it's not the Department of Defense saying it, but it's outside services, third-party folks that are saying it.
And with that, the technology that's available with cameras and sensors and everything else, the neighbors shouldn't worry about their privacy issues. There's not going to be armed guards on the four corners or anything. So just the picture of that in the community to fit in.
Sure, and so none of that's going to happen. So if you think of the facility now, what it looks like, there's no guns pointing out into the road.
It's easy for the mind to run wild.
Oh, sure,
especially when
sure.
you start to get a more visible footprint.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point.
Mr. Bryan, one question I had that hadn't been asked, and I think would be important to the group, is your work hours. I don't think you covered those.
So work hours, and so right now, because we're so constrained, we're working 20 hours a day. We do 4 days a week, 2 10-hour shifts. That's because we got to get more parts out of the machines that we have because we've lost we don't have the footprint to put new machines in. We do a weekend shift now. So the idea being that when we move, we're going to have to modify that, and we're not sure what that looks like just yet. But if the concern is there's going to be gunfire late at night, that's not going to happen. Or if the concern is there's going to be trucks coming in at all hours, our receiving hours are not going to change because of security, so it's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so we're very conscious of what we do for the ranges, and so everything is mitigated, so the noise, the smell, the powder, everything like that is all trapped, and we clean out those traps at least 2 times a year, sometimes more when we get larger contracts. So if you notice on the picture, we put that to the northern side, so there's a building separating the ranges from the houses on Cobb Road. So all of that was taken into consideration, but normal business hours are going to be right now 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the front staff. It is staggered for the operations staff. They are 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so it's not going to be 180 cars coming in and out all at the same time. Did that answer your question, sir?
Mr. Shirley?
Just a couple more questions. I made a commitment to ask several things on the record of you all, so I'm going to do that tonight. Who will own the property, the 172 acres? And I've heard that there will be a separate owner for the building or the interior. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. My name is Jeff Connexy. I'm also with Hamilton Development Company. Our company, along with our capital partner, will own this facility in the long term. And then, we will be owning effectively the land that's under the Phase 1 area. The remaining 120 acres will be owned by Barrett, the business.
Okay. All right. And can you on the screen go to page 8 where it has the permitted uses? There were some people that, and I don't know if you can zoom in on that, the side that just has permitted uses. Several people have called and were concerned that this is opening the door to, well, now they say it's just this, but once we get it approved and built, then we might change what's going on. Right now that Barrett firearms and munitions for those particular munitions, but Doug, are we restricting what goes on inside the building? The question is, are they going to say that they're doing this today, and can they switch to something else tomorrow after they have their building built? And the other question is, let's say that the business decides, you know what, we actually want to build in Australia instead, and they vacate this property. What is allowed inside that building when they vacate it?
Right, and yeah, we alluded to this a little bit earlier when we were talking about PUDs. This is what they're proposing here with the different uses. These would be the things that they would be allowed to do within the building or use the building for, these various uses here that you see. Now, they did list several things on here about employee amenities, because they, originally those were kind of separated. They weren't employee amenities, they were just kind of lumped in rather with everything else. So you see several of those amenities. I don't think that is the biggest concern. I think maybe the concern probably has to do with some of the other uses that are listed under industrial, transportation, public utilities, and whatever. But there's a wide range of uses, and that's what I was alluding to a little bit earlier during my staff report is, that might be something that the Planning Commission may want to look a little more closely at. But yeah, if this is approved and this is what ends up in the pattern book, then yes, if for some reason those scenarios that you were talking about came to pass, and somebody else, approached them, the owners of the property, owners of the building, and said, hey, we'd like to do one of these other allowable uses, that would not have to come back before us, because those uses are allowed based on the approved pattern book.
And who put these uses on this plan? Is that you guys?
That would be
or is
the
this just
applicant. I'm assuming it was a collaborative effort between the applicant and their design team. Yeah.
So one thing that jumps out to me as I look at employment, amenity, a daycare center, a lodge, a museum, a park, those all sound great, but a parking garage, a health club could generate a ton of car traffic and stuff. Maybe not, you got 400 employees potentially, so maybe it balances out, but there's a lot of these things could be left to interpretation as to what they are. Explosives being one that jumps out off the list. I know that we had a explosive storage site somewhere between Bradeville Pike and John Bragg Highway, and that they didn't want that stuff moving back and forth, explosives on trucks and things. So that could be a concern, I think. So I just wonder about limiting these uses to, as you said, non-guided munitions, and really, this is what we're putting in the building, this one thing, and we're taking all this other stuff off the table. That would give the community comfort to know that then it would be required to come back before the Planning Commission for a public hearing before we did anything else other than building Barrett firearms and the munitions to be fired.
So maybe a little point of clarification. As we grow and as we get families in and stuff, those amenities were for employees, and so that the daycare would be so that if single moms could have a place to drop their child off. And we took this from another company that we had seen do it. The same with the fitness facilities, cafeteria. If we do it, that's not open to the public because we're secure, and so think of those as employee amenities so that they don't have to travel to go get a gym or go get child care or out for lunch, because if we build all that in there, then that's less traffic, because now we're not having to go back and forth. I just didn't want you to think it was open to the public.
That makes a lot more. Those are their amenities for the employees. Thank you for that clarification. What about the industrial list there? I think I'd see cosmetics would be something similar to Schwann's Cosmetics on Joe B. Jackson, another facility, manufacturing facility or something, but talk about these lists.
Well, those lists were really designed more for, a broad range of use in addition to what, Barrett wants to do. So if there's certain items that gives the community's concern, we're happy to talk about that. I think it'd be very challenging for us to have a building that is still marketable to just limit it to Barrett only. So we have to have some level of flexibility there. But if there's an item up there that gives you or the community concern, we're happy to take it on a sort of a line by line basis.
Well, I think the explosives one is one that but I don't know, does a munition count as explosives?
So ATF controls all that, and the bunkers that you have to build, the boxes that have to get stored in, but simple gunpowder is a 1.4S explosive. And so we have it right now because we manufacture ammunition. So I don't want you to think that we're going to be storing C4, Petin, any of that stuff, RDX. But if we did, it's incredible the safety measures that you have to put down, and it's the metal containment box with the berms around them and things like that. But just explosives as it is, that can be small arms powder to manufacture ammunition.
Someone was asked me about rockets and missiles and being manufactured in there. Would a shoulder-mounted rocket be allowed to be manufactured in this under the current allowances.
And so the parent company, NIA, has another company that in Australia called the Australian Missile Corporation. And they're in Huntsville all the time because they're trying to get rocket motor production down in Australia. And so a future plan could be to have an office for the Australian Missile Corporation in our facility. And then we would be manufacturing the intricate components of those rocket motors, not the explosives. And so, but explosives could be, one of the things we're working on now is a precision grenadier rifle. And so instead of lobbing a grenade, you're actually shooting a grenade. And so, but we do that right now anyway. So, and it goes back to the XM109 project, which is going on 15 years ago. We made grenade rifles at the facility we're currently at, and those had explosive warheads to it. Now, 95% of what we shoot are inert plastic or inert aluminum rounds. But the U.S. military has to be able to see us and see us shoot these, and we partner with somebody to do that. It's manufactured off-site. It's actually manufactured up in Wisconsin.
I had another question from an adjoining landowner that wanted to know about accessing your side of the fence to do property maintenance and things. What would you tell him? What would you say to him?
Well, right now, the current plan is the fence would not go right on the property line. It would be somewhat, it's going to be in the property line quite well, so there shouldn't be that shouldn't be a concern.
This is their existing farm fence is on the property line, so it's a border fence between this existing property, basically the 150 acres that'll be left outside of the phase one. So I'm talking about property boundary fencing. So that is a shared boundary. He was concerned about being able to come on to, if you've ever maintained, we got Bradford Pearfield out there that we got to take out, right? So, but like, how can he run his mower on your side of that boundary fence to keep the weeds down?
No, I think we would be happy to meet with that property owner. Right now, I would say that would be challenging from a security perspective, but we will, we're happy to put that in the, as a requirement that we will maintain, along the property line.
Anyone else?
Chairman Reed, I have one thing.
I was going to say, I heard another click. It's over here.
Well, I think Doug mentioned it, but I know it's in his report, but this will be served by the City of Murfreesboro sewer system, and they have already got approval to be served under their sewer system with an expansion.
Okay. We will be back at 8 o'clock. We're going to take a short break on behalf of the commissioners. So we will be back here at 8 o'clock. We're adjourning for just a few minutes. Calling meeting back to order. It's now time for our public hearing. And I have given, you've all been here for the instructions for the other two, and we have not changed those, but you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And just remember, when the red light comes on, it's time to be through and time to sit down. Remind you on the microphone up here, try to pull it as close as you can so you may be heard. I heard from an old gentleman one time, it's like using a spit tomb. You got to hit it to make it work. And that's pretty much what we've got here. So we'll begin. I've already called it to order, and the first person may come forward. You'll need to give your name and your address.
My name is Ryan Murphy. I live at 2804 Valley Farms Drive. I'm a veteran, and I live less than 2 miles from Barrett's current facility. I'm also an employee at Barrett, and I served in the U.S. Army for over 10 years, and I've had the pleasure of working at Barrett Firearms for 8.5 years. During that time, I've attended TCAT on 2 separate occasions. Barrett is a fantastic company to work for. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. I'm here today to express my full support for Barrett's proposal to build a new facility just down the road from our current location. As an employee and a resident of the community, I believe the development will be a positive step forward for everyone involved. First, the new site is conveniently located with easy access to the interstate. With the addition of a traffic light, the flow of traffic will be much safer and more efficient and will benefit our employees, customers, and suppliers. Hold on, baby. Sorry. She's ready to go home. The flow of traffic will be much safer and more efficient. This will benefit our employees, customers, suppliers, ensuring a smoother operations and less congestion in the area. For our community, this new facility will bring more jobs. Proximity to local neighborhoods means we will have the chance to hire talented people right here in our area, which will boost the local economy and create more opportunities for everyone. As someone who has lived and worked here for several years, I can say that these kind of opportunities make a real difference. Moreover, this expansion is a sign of Barrett's commitment to the community. We are not just building a new facility, we're investing in the future, creating more jobs, helping to improve local infrastructure, all of which contribute to the overall quality of life for those who live here. In conclusion, I truly believe that this facility will strengthen both our company and the community. It's a positive development that will bring about job growth, economic activity, and the long-term stability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next. How much time do you want to ask for? 5, okay. 6, 7. That's it.
We're negotiating how much time I get up here. So, Ricky Marlin, 7868 Blankenship Road, Christiana. I'm less than a mile from this location. Can y'all hear me pretty good? Got to eat this microphone, right? Good intermission break there, Chairman Reed. That we all needed that. So, so I've extended my time a little bit there, Pettis, because I have a lot of things from the presentation that I have a problem with that I wanted to get out there. And Bryan James, are you in the room still? All right. Were you at the 2 community meetings? Huh? You were not. Ronnie Barrett, were you at the 2 community meetings? Neither one of them were at the community meeting. So if you love Murfreesboro, you should have been at that community meeting. And we love our community as well too. And you want to say something? I just asked you if you was at the meeting.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Can we? Thank you.
Let me say, we're not to ask questions to the rest of office. Make your statements, move on, either for or against, and your comments.
All right, sounds good to me. So here's the proposal. My PowerPoint to this is that we're all for this expansion, just not at this location. This location is not the place for this expansion to be because it's in the middle of a residential area. That's what Doug said. It's surrounded by homes, residential homes that people have lived here for 30, 40, 50 years, just as this company's been here. And so it's not zoned. Everything around it is zoned the same. And sorry, let me go to the next slide here. So if you look at this property, do you see any buildings in here? Do you see any fences, parking spaces, any trucks? You don't, because it's all residential. It's zoned residential, and it should stay that way. They had a proposal for 300 acres someplace else. Let's find out where that is, and let's go there. Or let's find the best place for it. We want a seat at the table for this expansion, not at this location. We want it to go someplace else. We're all for jobs and expansion, but we're not for it at this location, and we think it's not the correct location. So this is another area here that that you can see the blue line is the demarcation line. That's the protected area on the right and the development area on the left. And in 2013, that's what Doug and I think maybe Mr. Overwater was talking about. When the lodge got rezoned, they protected those 2 parcels to keep the Dixie Highway, the scenic highway, as a protected corridor of residential homes in that area so that it stays that way. And we want to hold the county to that. We appreciate that back then and when the lodge got rezoned, and we just never thought we'd have to ask for that on the other side of the road because we wanted it right there. See if I can get this pointer to work. Probably won't be able to see it, but right there where the blue, it says development area, that's a rental home there. right there in the red roof. And then there's the trailers, Mr. Overwater, that you were asking about right there. But that is a protected area right there, and it was rezoned, or not rezoned. It stayed residential during that rezoning several years ago. And so we'll skip by that. The X marks where the Barrett Firearms is right now, and there's 41 acres right there behind it that's already has the correct zoning, already zoned. They don't have to go through a rezoning. And it has the sewer. They don't have to expand the sewer. And why they don't develop there and land there, or this 300 acres, or a lot of other places in the county that's already zoned correctly, we would like to have that discussion with them and partner with them to find that correct location. Plan Rutherford. Plan Rutherford is in development right now. Y'all been working on it. Pettis has been working on it. Let's wait until that's finalized, signed, sealed, and delivered to find out what that entails before rezone. Almost one of the biggest rezonings this county's ever seen for this type of rezoning. Doug, that was what I asked Doug about. So the other part of this is not being in the right location. It's not the correct time for this to be rezoned. Doug mentioned that. The rezoning timing is critical on this. The bridge. First I heard about it tonight. I wish I had called the community and let us know if it actually is, but as far as I know, there is no appropriations as of right now for that to happen. Discussions is one thing, plans is another, but to actually have it in pen and paper that is going to be in 2026, and then what they say, it's 3 years before that's done, and they want to open this in 2027. The example is exit 105 in Manchester. It has the same stoplight, 3-minute stoplight, one lane each way. Can you imagine that for 2 years while this plan is open, or even at the existing traffic that we have right now? So the timing is another reason this shouldn't happen right now. Very important. We did an accident study. There's been 125 accidents between Joe B. Jackson and Beach Grove in a year and 3 months. And then been 25 at Epps-Mill Road with, unfortunately, 1 fatality already. And there's more from March of this year. Traffic backs up to the interstate. Do you want your school bus coming out on the traffic? It's kind of hard to see there, but it's backed up all the way, trust me, all the way to the interstate. It is a scenic highway. Did y'all hear the meeting right before this? The scenic highway on Woodbury Highway? This is also a scenic highway. It's a Dixie Highway. We want that protected, like I just mentioned, the corridor along that road. This is not an industrial part of the county on that side of Manchester Highway. We do have environmental concerns on that property. We've had a report of a bald eagle on that property. I think TWRA was out there just this week trying to see if that is still out there, a nesting site for a bald eagle. We've got mussels that could be in the creek back there, and we've gotten 2 new, the House just passed 2 new protected plants in Rutherford County. One is only found in Rutherford County in the whole world, in Rutherford County. Could be on that property. And we'd like to have a environmental assessment done before this gets rezoned. We're worried about pollution, water, air, noise, light. I know it was brought up, but how can you tell us our wells won't get contaminated? And so that's why we want this environmental assessment completed before. We have blasting concerns or construction concerns on our foundations and our well water. Not everybody's on CUD out there. And then the other part of the puzzle here, the sewer connection from Murfreesboro. They had 10 years of moratorium where nobody was connected to the sewer. The city did. Now all of a sudden they were going to let somebody connect to the sewer. I've got a public information request due back any day now to find out the details of that. Why all of a sudden is the city going to allow this connection to the sewer? We want this property to play by the same rules as everybody else out there in the county, and that means traditional septic systems. And then we only have 1 house on 5 acres or 10 acres, and it's beautiful $1 million homes. They'll still make money off of it. Let's find the correct place for Barrett Firearms, or it's actually a foreign-owned company anymore. We need to make sure that's very clear too. It's not Barrett Firearms. They sold out. And so our property taxes have went up. Everybody's property taxes as an average of 16%, and now we're going to give a property tax abatement to a foreign-owned company? You got to be kidding me. I mean, are we really doing that today? I'm paying more, and then a foreign-owned company is getting a tax break, $800,000. So we want to assist in this. We have the solution for this. It's come to a round table with the stakeholders, and the county residents are a stakeholder in this development. We want to see the job growth, and we want to see Ronnie Barrett flourish, but just not at this location, Ronnie. I hope you realize that. I'm for you to expand your business. You're an entrepreneur, and I appreciate that, but not at this location. If you would have come to us, any one of us out in the county and asked us and met with us, we'd have told you not at this location, Ronnie. That's the legacy.
Sir, you're to address only what you're speaking on,
I'm trying to
not
make
other
amends here.
individuals.
I understand, Pettis. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make amends there, And so last thing is here, we do have a petition against this rezoning. There's our website there. We got 157 Pettis on this petition here, and there's more coming, but that's what we had for tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Against this rezoning. Please think about denying this rezoning for those reasons.
Next. No. Ladies and gentlemen, the public comment period is time for you to come up here and either say you're for or against and make your comments, and that's it. There are no questions or answers, and you are not to take argument with someone else or make discussion with someone else. Next.
How y'all doing? John Fordham, 10554 Manchester Pike. My wife and I live just about a mile south on Manchester from the proposed development. So Ricky's a tough act to follow there, so I'm not going to be quite as well prepared as him. I don't have a PowerPoint or anything, but the way we see this is you have some professionals up here giving a slick presentation today. They're artists. They do it every day. It's their job. And you guys all know every artist has a hidden meaning in their work that they paint, they illustrate, and want people to see and look at it and understand what they're thinking. So I didn't really know as much about it today. I learned a lot tonight. So one of the things that I'm really concerned about here is the unorthodox arrangement. One of the gentlemen up here earlier mentioned that the property that the building is going to be constructed on is going to be owned by the developer, and it's going to be leased to Barrett. The rest of the property is going to be owned by Barrett. So a little later, he mentioned one of the gentlemen over here was asking about the site uses. He was a little concerned about potential restrictions because of how are we going to have a marketable property. So one of the questions I urge you to ask is how long is this lease agreement going to be with Barrett? And how soon does that property turn over and become a marketable property? And who's going to get that next? Who's going to be the next tenant in that property? To me, that's the first domino falling, all right? Every calamity starts with a first domino falling. And to me, that's kind of the first domino. They get this property in here, they build it, they get their way, and then the next guy comes in and he wants to get the next empty property and redevelop it. And next thing you know, it's marching right down the highway, right through all of us. And Ricky mentioned that it's a scenic highway. It's a very pretty area. I don't know how many of you are very familiar with it, but it's a beautiful area. It's one of the reasons my wife and I, we moved here 2.5 years ago. I had to get the heck out of New Jersey. It was a horrible place. And we found this wonderful place down here in Tennessee, and we love it. And this is where we're gonna spend the rest of our days. So I'd like to spend the rest of them in peace. And quite honestly, I don't know if some of you commissioners probably remember this. Not too long ago, we just had another battle with another developer, the Hensley Group, trying to develop a property right next to mine. And he got shot down. All right, he did a lot of stupid things, and he got shot down. These guys, they're not going to make the same mistakes as him. But I urge you to see through the colorful painting that they're putting up in front of you and see the hidden meaning. Because quite honestly, the only ones that are standing to make out here are the developer and Barrett. And actually, not even Barrett. It's Barrett's parent company. So I'm out of time, so that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next. We need your name and address, please.
My name is Kara Suko, 7051 Cobb Road. I am for them showing up. I moved out there to not have so many neighbors, and if we keep it this way, we risk getting more neighbors. I would rather look at a 20-foot berm with trees on it than into somebody else's backyard.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you all, commissioners. We're grateful for the opportunity to present our side. About approximately 3 weeks ago, Channel 5 and D&J brought to public view only one side of this development. And to our dismay, many of our residents had the impression that the rezoning that is their right was a done deal, that they had no say, that they had no part in it, that all of you had accepted it. So we have worked very hard to let the public, the rural community, we have Buchanan Community Alliance, which is several hundred people, and obviously they're not all here tonight, but you had many of them at the 2 meetings that the developer opened. Now, I would like to start, if you would help me with that picture. The eagle.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't get a name or address. I'm taking notes.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. My name is Cheryl Ann Hayes. I live at 112 Blue Ribbon Road, Blue Ribbon Trail, right off of Manchester Highway. There's 2, but that's a good start. Yeah, there you go. We have had, I actually have a picture. This was taken January 7th of this year. And obviously you can see it's the bald eagle. This is presented above the flag, on the flagpole, because it is the American symbol of freedom. And we want to bring to your attention that this nest, there may be others, but the eagles have a family like we do. They have father and mother eagles, and they nest like a family. Now, there are 2 federal laws that prohibit the destruction of the nesting and the habitat of the bald eagle and the golden eagle as well. Could we go to the, okay, that's the next one, if you could see it any better. We're concerned not only for the preservation of the American symbol of our freedom, but we are using that as a way of reminding all of you that under our rights, the Constitution, if you'll bear with me just a second, the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, may I finish that?
Well, quick, you've got 12 seconds.
He took my place. In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That being said, I have been working with Representative Shane Reeves. He has contacted not only TDOT, and we are waiting for a report, a full deep study report. He has also contacted Tennessee Department of Economic Conservation and the Tennessee Wildlife Reserve Agency. And we have already seen one of their trucks to come out sending a team. So we're grateful that these things are being done, but Shane's office contacted me and said this is underway, but there's no way that these deep studies can be presented tonight, and we need time.
Please finish up.
We need time. We're just asking that we not become collateral damage for a massive development that could very easily relocate to another more appropriate site off of the interstate, even off of 840, and still be in Rutherford County. This, with an $8 million, as I understand it, Australian corporation, they can afford to go somewhere else.
Ma'am, it's time to finish.
Thank you
please.
for your time, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you all for letting me speak. My name is Kim Rowland, and I live at 7171 Cobb Road. I'm speaking tonight to express my opposition to the proposed Barrett manufacturing plant at 8808 Manchester Pike. My family and I moved to our home 13 years ago, seeking the peace, quiet, and natural beauty of the countryside. The proposed manufacturing plant threatens to disrupt our tranquil environment with noise and light pollution. It will undoubtedly drive away the local wildlife we cherish. Additionally, the construction involved could potentially damage our home's foundations and contaminate our well water. We had intended to spend the rest of our lives in our home. I even laid my father to rest in a tree, under a tree in our yard. However, if this project is approved, the peace we sought will be shattered, and we will be forced to abandon the home we love and leave my father's final resting place. I'm going to leave you with a poem I wrote. The fields that once stretched green and wide now shrink and fade with nowhere to hide. The farmhouses stand with weary sigh as progress marches reaching for the sky. The air is filled with the roar and hum of machines that come with constant thrum. A silence broken where once a gentle breeze, now replaced by noise and no trees. The animals flee their homes erased by human hand at rapid pace. The countryside's heart feels the pain as nature's beauty begins to wane. The wind whispers loss, a somber sound, as nature's beauty disappears from the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening. My name is Anthony Caudle. I live at 7515 Delbridge Road, Murfreesboro. I'd like to thank everybody for coming from my community, whether you agree with the project or not. And I don't have any interest in Barrett or any of the manufacturing. I just want everybody here to know that. But I highly respect what Mr. Barrett built. I've got a lot of respect for what they're continuing here in our community. They want to remain part of our community. And, you know, it's important that we as community members ensure, you know, obviously our wishes are that the commission does what our wishes are. I want to thank our leadership, too, for making sure that that happens. But I lived in this community for over 25 years, lived at my current address for 20. I've served in the Army as a paratrooper. I protected this community as a state trooper. During my time in the military, I had the opportunity to operate some of, you know, Ronnie Barrett's weapons that he designed. I've had the opportunity to meet Ronnie on occasion. Barrett employs many veterans at his facility. I'm here to support them just as much. Just wanted, I don't want to see them leave our community. Something important to note, this property is already zoned for residential properties. One of the largest residential developments in Tennessee, or at least in Rutherford County, is Buchanan Estates. And I don't want to see Buchanan Estates, number 2, come in right there where that property's at. I think, from a security perspective, I understand what they're trying to do. I understand that facility is going to be DOD regulated. They're going to be manufacturing weapons there that our nation and, people that are allies of the United States are going to use, against our enemies if we ever have a war. So it's patriotic, it's manufacturing. Just to address some of the things as far as traffic, as a state trooper working the road for 20 years, I don't believe that the traffic there would be affected any more than it is now. That's my opinion. With one truck coming and going once a week, even if it's 10 a week, it's not going to affect it much. As far as timing, bringing manufacturing here to our community, back to America, I think the timing's right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hello, my name is Susie Ward. I'm a resident of 15991 Manchester Pike, along with my husband and my daughter Lucy, who is here, but she had to go home because it was her bedtime. I am here to share my concern for the construction of a weapons factory. We pass that location, that intersection every day to go to her daycare and to work. And I share the sentiment that it is an absolutely beautiful area. We love living where we do. We hope to live there for a very long time. One of my main concerns is that the property values, the homeowners there, will decrease, and especially in this time of real estate, that is a large concern of mine. And secondarily, I just don't understand why this location, especially if they were offered 300 acres of free federal land for building, expanding their company for federal contracts. I don't understand why they wouldn't use that and why they would rather disrupt and rezone residential land. And then lastly, I do question if it's the highest and best opportunity for that area. I do agree that some beautiful, million-dollar homes could be built there. I also believe that the South Rutherford area is in quite the need for a new high school. Personally, we are zoned for Riverdale, which is a 30-minute drive, and I'm sure that a lot of residents of the South Rutherford County would benefit from a new high school being built there, especially since Riverdale is already overcrowded, difficult to get to, and I'm not quite sure what it'll be like. I can only imagine it being more crowded in 13 years when my children begin to attend. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Jeremy Blunt. I live at 136 Blue Ribbon Trail, Christiana, a very short distance away from where this is being proposed. I'm a local business owner with numerous employees, not nearly as many as this facility would house. My first question is how our local community as it stands is set to benefit from this plan, and moreover, who, apart from Barrett's foreign parent company, is set to benefit. How is our local community expected to accommodate the increase in traffic for consumption activities related to a daily commute? Our community's nearest grocery store or major restaurants to accommodate this level of traffic flow are at least 10 minutes away. The concerns of traffic then extend not only to beginning and ending work shifts, but during any and all lunch shifts, which for a staff of 500 plus, I assume must be staggered. The presenters stated they aren't sure yet what working hours will be for this facility, but 20-hour workdays are already occurring. The need for this facility has arisen due to demand. How much will increased demand due to larger contracts change the hours of work, and thereby its impact on our residential community? Once this project is approved, there is no way as a community to effect change to the working hours of this new facility. Furthermore, and I may be a little confused on this, but from the presenters when they were up here, it became apparent to me that they continue to tout improvements by TDOT to Exit 89 and the Manchester Highway. Yet it seemed that they themselves admitted during their presentation period that the fact that these developments are already planned was one of their reasons for choosing the site. As such, what does development of this site as a PUD development actually provide to our community? New schools for our community's future children will surely not be constructed next to an explosives factory. New upscale residential development to improve our community's home values will surely not be built next to an explosives factory. And in closing, during the previous requests public discussion segment, the final gentleman to speak, who all of you seem to know, he ended his comments by stating, when he was asked for his opinion by the gravel company's request, he stated that they should go talk to their neighbors. And it's obvious from the response by the community that have all chosen to be here right now, how the community and the neighbors for this would-be site feel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Greg Harvey. I live at 13803 Big Springs Road. Some of you know who I am. Jason, Mike, Doug, some of y'all. I'm going to talk a little bit about their existing facility. I have been retired from the Water and Sewer Department since 21, and 2 or 3 years before that, a gentleman from Barrett's, obviously somebody who knew the inner workings of the facility, approached me about connecting to the sewer that, mind you, your state tax dollars paid to extend to their facility, and they never connected to it. I was approached about that, connecting to the sewer, and I was told that TDEC had gave them a 3-year window to do something else due to their on-site treatment system having heavy metal contaminations as well as other chemicals used in the process. So what are you going to do with the existing facility? How are you going to, by the way, they did not, to my knowledge, had not connected at the time I left. And I would have been the one that they'd had to gone through to legally connect. I'm not sure where they're bringing sewer from for this facility. The sewer that is there is in a designated boundary, and this location is outside of that boundary. That is a legally recorded document, and that document would have to be changed or modified. I spoke to a few people I know today. They have not seen any kind of plans of where this is going to get sewer. Your two options are to cross into the Buchanan Sewer Assessment District, again, which is pretty much put in stone, or you go all the way down to the Maples, because that's where the sewer stops. Just something to ponder. Again, one last thing. I have a little heartburn as a taxpayer citizen to giving tax breaks on industrial properties. I know a lot of people raised Cain about the Costco here a few years ago. The flip side to the Costco is that the county will get way more tax revenue from a Costco than they'll ever get from any industrial on property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hello. My name is Mickey Harris. I live at 9332 Fox Hollow Road, about 6 or 7 miles from the property. I'm a lifelong county resident here, and I just had a few concerns as I read over some of the things. Is like, why are they going to try to rezone the whole 170 acres if they're just going to use the front 40 to 50 acre site for industrial use? That seems a little excessive. You know, they say they're going to try to keep the other part as a nature preserve or something, but it doesn't really need to be zoned commercial if they're going to do that. You know, the other concerns I have are my family and my neighbors' property values are going to go down. That's just going to happen. So, you know, they will decrease, and the taxes won't go down, but the property values will, I'm sure. And I did install sewer or septic systems for years in this county, and I've been from one corner to the other, and this land is really swampy. And if anybody knows, if you've lived on a farm, you don't want to drive your truck across this field on a rainy day. Parts of it you'll sink in, and some of it is pretty solid, you know, when it's not raining, but the creek gets out of the banks all the time from all the drainage from the surrounding community, which leads me to another question. With these 20-foot berms, is that going to hinder the drainage from the neighbors' properties? Where's that water going to go if they're building berms on each side, or, you know, especially where the houses are on Cobb Road? We've got a lot of friends there. And the noise, the traffic, I mean, it's hard to get through that. Everybody knows it's hard to get through that road there at the exit, especially with the new CarMax dealer there. Those trucks are parked everywhere. They're trying to unload everywhere. It's a mess. That's continued with the trucks that were already coming into both of the truck stops. So it's a really dangerous area right now. And if they're not going to have the exit done for probably 2 to 3 years, that would take, you know, it would take forever to get through there. And just you know, this is still a farming community. That area is beautiful. My brother-in-law, their family has lived there for over 100 years, and we don't really have any plans on moving. We love it out there, and we want it to stay a beautiful community if we can. I'm not against the manufacturing of firearms. I've known Ronnie Barrett and his son Chris my whole life, and I'm a musician. I've traveled around the world many, many years, and I've seen when other countries other than the U.S., they plan accordingly. They keep their countryside beautiful. They keep their you know, the county, I'm sorry, they keep it, they plan it, they do things accordingly, and they put things where they should be. That's all I'm asking you to do, is consider that. Would you want this in your backyard? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Philip Haynes. I live at 7354 Christiana Hoover's Gap Road, but I'm currently building a home on a farmland that's across the creek from this property at 7715 Hughes Road. And I'm here to say that, you know, one of the things we've always kind of feared is having a subdivision to come in the actual area to take away some of the, you know, it increased more traffic. However, I feel like this seems responsibly what they're planning to do on this property in limiting some of the restricted areas where it's water and can flood and so forth. It seems like they seem to be very responsible in planning and what they're doing. The concerns I do have would be is the access on Delbridge Road, which is a single lane road, that if there's any traffic that would come into that particular side, is what could we do to you know, make that an easier access, because there's a lot of traffic that cuts in between there. I do like the fact that they are putting a traffic light there, whether, you know, this is going there or not. There is a lot of traffic that backs up when we have accidents on that particular exit or exits anywhere above or below that. So seeing something change with the actual exit or entrance to Manchester Highway would be a significant improvement, I feel, to the area and community there. We certainly would love to see Manchester Highway improved as well. The road itself I've lived there in the area for 60 years, so my whole life pretty much. And on this property, I've lived there. I was born a year before that, and so lived on that property for that period of time. But, you know, the concern I have would just be the access on Delbridge Road. What could we do to, you know, if they were having access to that? And then he brought up a good point about why do we have to zone the whole property, 171 acres, with the PUD, limited industrial? You know, could they not just have that limited portion of it and still utilize the rest of it for what they need if they're building a lodge or whatever that might be? So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Blunt. I live at 136 Blue Ribbon Trail, just right down the road from this proposal. I am not a public speaker, so this is pretty important that I'm up here in front of all of you guys today. I know it's been a long day for everyone that's sitting here, so just bear with me. I think one of the things that I wanted to point out is no one is here tonight to, you know, say that Barrett Firearms is not a good business. We heard, you know, the CEO say, we take care of our employees, we're going to have this health facility, we're going to have a daycare, so single moms, like, no one's talking about the business. That's not why we're here. We're talking about this specific location and if it's appropriate. I'm also not a person who can stand here and tell you I've been in this area for 20 years or my family's from here. I'm from Mississippi, and I actually just recently moved to Blue Ribbon in hopes that it was going to be our forever home. You know, I wanted to grow my family there, have high school kids, and have that community the way that it is and how beautiful it is there. I'm not going to point out everything that's been mentioned. You guys have heard it ad nauseum. Noise, traffic, water drainage, like we can go over that all again. We all know those are the concerns. But I also want to point out that this community is not anti-business. That's not what anyone up here is saying. We're pro-community. We've talked about being at the table saying, like, this is what we want, this is, you know, listen to us, let's find the appropriate site. And moving this business, which is very successful, and, you know, kudos to Mr. Barrett for building this, you know, empire, but there's other places that it can go, and I think that that's what we should look at. And it does bring jobs and everything, and that's all good, just not in this residential area where we're going to look at it every single day. And if you guys think about other industrial areas, like, you know, Sam Ridley came to mind. I know that's way up the road. But even Epps Mill, there's empty factories on Joe B. Jackson. There's empty factories, again, on Sam Ridley. What happens when Barrett Firearms eventually, you know, if business goes well, you guys are going to move again. So what happens at that point? And what comes in, and what do we do then? So thank you guys for your time. I hope to never see any of you again.
Next.
My name is Raleigh Marlin. I live at 7888 Blankenship Road, Christiana, Tennessee. I was born, raised, and continuing to live and farm on a 196-year-old century family farm. My son, sixth generation, that spoke tonight. My grandson, Luke, and my granddaughter, Annabelle, the seventh generation, will be speaking tonight. They also live on Blankenship Road and have their own farming operation, which is raising sheep. I sell hay, and they, of course, work and help me on that farm. My grandson, Luke, is in the process of now remodeling the home place that I was born and raised in that was built before the Civil War. And he's going to live there and farm that portion. The farm frontage is on Blankenship Road, Manchester Road, and Cobb Road, real close to this location. My granddaughter is going to build a house on the property on Cobb Road. So we have a lot of skin in the game in your decision tonight. A lot of skin in the game. A lot of things I wanted to talk to tonight, but with 3 minutes, I'm pretty limited. And at my age, to be honest with you, I can't pee within 3 minutes. So I've had to cut my discussion very short. Lastly, I wanted to say that some of you probably say, well, you know, Mr. Marlin, you got frontage on 3 roads. They're salivating. What if they offered you millions of dollars? Ladies and gentlemen, I can look you in the eye, every one of you, and tell you, my property is not going for sale for any amount of money. I get multiple offers every week to sell my property. It will never be sold. My son will not sell it, and my grandchildren will not sell it. It's a family tradition. Now, what my great-grandchildren do are not born yet, I have no idea and can't control. But this I can control and have control. Lastly, I wasn't sure what you actually did. So I Googled it to see what the roles and responsibilities of a planning commission was. And there were several listed, from rezoning, whatever. The most important one to me and to everyone out here living in this community is the one that states, and I quote, "Support the goals and interests of the local community." That is us, ladies and gentlemen. That is us. That is not 5 people up here painting a rosy picture of what may or may not happen. And my time is up.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Tony Tabb. I'm from 3323 Diamond Court, Murfreesboro. I own property directly across from this property on Manchester Pike, 8780 Manchester Pike. I'm very excited about this project. I appreciate Mr. Barrett staying in the area, creating jobs. This is a beautiful building, in my opinion. I think that Barrett has done so much for this community. They've done so much for America with what he's created. I'm proud to call Barrett Manufacturing my neighbor. I'm really excited about this, and I sure hope that hope it passes. I appreciate you guys taking time to listen to all of us, even the people that don't agree. I think it's important everybody voice their concerns. I do, but I'm 100% behind this. I think this is great for the community, and I'm so glad they're not leaving, going to Texas or another state that I'm sure is recruiting them. So thank you very much, and good luck.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Drew Irwin, and I reside at 2945 Cason Lane. I am a Murfreesboro native and the Vice President of Operations at Barrett Firearms Manufacturing. 25 years ago, I started at this company in an entry-level position. Barrett not only gave me a job, but gave me a career so I could raise my family here in the Murfreesboro area. So we need more than a factory. This is an opportunity to give over 180 jobs to the community and provide more opportunities for the 192 families that we already employ at Barrett today. We are investing in the long term, just like the company invested in me. I never thought that when I first walked through the doors 25 years ago that I would be actually standing at this lectern right here talking to you as the VP of Operations. I was given that opportunity by Barrett because they like to promote from within. So several people have asked, who stands to benefit from this? Well, I stand to benefit from it. My family stands to benefit from it, and a whole lot of other people stand to benefit from it. So we have also been in the area since, by my calculations, 1987, when we operated it for many years at 8211 Manchester Highway, which is less than 3/4 of a mile from the current proposed facility. We're also operating at that 3/4 of a mile from that at 5926 Miller Lane right now. So that proves that we are not outsiders. And the factory is more than growth for us. It's a belief in our people. It's a belief in the community. And so we need to give this opportunity to continue building the same future for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Lux, 5036 Epps Mill Road. I've been a resident of Rutherford County since 1998. For the last 11 years, I've also lived in the Buchanan Estates area, and just a short distance from this proposed site. Actually, before a lot of my neighbors lived there, some of who might oppose this idea. I am here to express my strong support for the proposed request to rezone this property from residential medium density to planned unit development. Because as someone who has not always been fortunate enough to work close to home in Rutherford County, I'm especially grateful to do so now as part of the team at Barrett. Our company has proudly called Rutherford County home since 1982, became part of the Buchanan Epps Mill area late 80s, early 90s by moving to our previous location 0.7 miles away from this intersection, and currently sits a half mile away from that intersection. I'd say Barrett has proven itself to be a good neighbor throughout that entire time. I often speak with people who would prefer to work in Rutherford County, like myself, rather than experience the daily commute to Metro Nashville. Many of them even express interest in working at Barrett if we're able to keep growing as intended. Obviously, we're all here supporting the local community. We want to support growth. We recognize that these things benefit the area with quality jobs and strengthen the county's long-term economic health. The proposed location, to me, is already included in the Epps Mill Road Employment Center area. It's in the Rutherford County Comprehensive Plan and sits on Manchester Pike, which the plan identifies as the urban corridor. I believe the proposal aligns well with the county's long-term vision for intentional employment-focused development in this area. And look around. There's gas stations, truck stops, restaurants, all right there. Before you move there, while you move there, if you want to move there today, they're still there. The jobs are there, the business is there, the industry's there. It's not getting smaller. However, the TDOT traffic studies actually indicate a steady but slight decrease in recent years for daily traffic along Manchester Pike. I'd say compared to the current zoning, which has potential to develop 250 new single-use homes, or a maximum of 510, those developments would place significantly greater strain on infrastructure like roads, utilities, schools. I feel Barrett's current request represents a more balanced and sustainable approach to growth and supports existing and growing businesses already located in the area. I also am in favor of the proposed traffic light at Epps Mill Road and Manchester Pike intersection, which would greatly benefit improving traffic flow, especially when I-24 backups and closures divert vehicles through the community. So I respectfully urge the Planning Commission to support this rezoning request and think it presents a responsible opportunity to support Rutherford County's growth plans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Philip Holden. I reside at 131 Blue Ribbon Trail in Christiana, which is Horseshoe Downs. I would like to ask everyone in this room, have they ridden down Manchester Highway and saw the beauty? Where I live at, we dodged a bullet. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We dodged a bullet a few years ago. Y'all were trying to get voted in a industrial site beside our subdivision. And for the wonderful reason it got voted down. If you ride down Manchester Highway today, that vote that y'all made was awesome, because look at the beautiful 100, all those houses through there that was on 100 to 200 acres. They split them up into 10-acre lots. They're beautiful homes. They're $1 million homes. They're gorgeous. Then you want to also vote this in over here. The gentleman said earlier, that lot, they're trying to put a presentation in front of you. We could put 200-something, 1,200 square foot houses over there. No, you can't. The property won't perk for that much. If that area is split up the same way, possibly, which it may not ever happen, into the same way they did the property that adjacent ours and sold those in 10-acre tracts, 15-acre tracts, and saved the beauty of Manchester Highway. I'm saying it from my heart. My heart is beating very hard right now because would you put this in your backyard? I mean, think about it. Would you put it in your backyard? It's easy to vote on it when you don't live there. But when you live in $1 million house and it's going to drop to $750 or whoever will want it after this is there, I'm not against Barrett Arms. I know Ronnie Barrett, great man. I know the company. Shot his guns before. My son shot them. Love it. I want to support it. Just not that location. Right out 840 and look at all the daggum empty buildings out there that people have built waiting for someone to occupy them. And then you want to put it in our backyard? I know you're already across the road, but please think about it before you make that vote. Would you put it in your backyard? I'm in the footwear manufacturing business with Area International. We want to come to America instead of China, Mexico, and build our footwear. I think we would respect the same act. There's places for commercial, and I don't feel this area is commercial. Please think about it before you make your vote. Would you put it in your backyard?
Hello, my name is Misty Marlin, and I live at 7868 Blankenship Road. I'm a lifelong resident of Rutherford County, and I live on a family farm on Blankenship Road that stretches over to Cobb Road. My children are 7th generation to live on this farm, and we are against this rezoning. We feel if you drive along Manchester Highway, you'll see farms, fields, residences. You won't see giant complexes or factories. So we just don't feel it belongs in this area. We're a very patriotic family, and we have nothing against Barrett Firearms. We think that it's great that they have this contract to defend our country. We just don't feel that this location is the right place. We feel that an already industrial area would be the perfect place along Dobie Jackson or 840, or a place that's already zoned industrial, is not on a 2-lane road, and already has the infrastructure there like sewer. The other thing is that we think about the people that live in our area. Most of the people here live in this area, and we just want to keep it rural and not have this big development. Recently, I went shopping in Nashville at Tanger Outlets. It's a huge mall, and that is the size of just phase 1 of this project. And I thought, oh my gosh, when I noticed the square footage, I thought, wow, this is really going to be a big development. And our family does support the manufacturing of these firearms. We just don't support this location. We feel it should be in a place that's already zoned industrial. And so we ask you to vote no on this proposal. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Annabelle Marlin, and I also live at 7868 Blankenship Road. I live on our family's farm, and I am the 7th generation to live on this farm. Our farm goes from Blankenship Road over to Cobb Road, which is adjacent to this proposed property. One day, I plan to build a house on our family farm on Cobb Road, and this proposed development would be across the road from that piece of land. I am against this rezoning because this stretch of highway is all homes, farms, and fields, not industrial complexes. It does not fit in with the area. I want following generations to be able to live in this rural area without having a factory across the road, which does not fit into the landscape of this area. We've already talked a lot about traffic, but when those accidents occur on the interstate exit at Epps Mill, all of the traffic is rerouted to two-lane Manchester Highway, causing gridlock traffic. There's a very important EMS station just down the road from this location, which is one of the only 16 ambulance stations in Rutherford County. With this development and the 400 new employees and the trailer truck delivery to this site, this traffic situation will only become worse and could potentially endanger lives and impact our safety. I ask you to not place this industrial development in the middle of our beautiful residential area, impacting our lives and safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm John Harney, live at 6748 West Gum Road. Our family's lived on Gum Road about 75 years now. And we love farms, love the scenic beauty along Manchester Highway, but we also love jobs and progress for our community. Our company developed the Joe B. Jackson interchange and all those the industrial area there, and we've developed several subdivisions up and down 41 over the years. We bought 2 farms on Manchester Highway to do basically the Joe B. Jackson interchange industrial area, the Ramsey Snell Farm and the Odom Farm, both fronted Manchester Highway. We had to go through the same rezoning and listen to some of the same concerns. But we felt like what was good for the community and was good to create jobs, which Joe B. Jackson's got about 6,000 jobs. When I heard about Barrett the state was trying to induce Barrett to move to Coffee County with free land and some other things, I called every legislative person I knew at the state and said, why are you trying to take good jobs away from Rutherford County? Now, known Barrett's all my life. They have been a great employer and partner in the Buchanan area for now 40 years. Average job at Barrett is about $10 per hour higher than any of the jobs at Joe B. Jackson right now. Somebody mentioned the tax abatement. The cities and counties use something called a pilot program. It's called payment in lieu in taxes as an incentive to get somebody to come build, and basically gives forgiveness of taxes on a scaled back basis for 5 years as an incentive. Now, it's always been done for industrial jobs. The only time it's been done that I'm aware of here was Costco. Costco was unusual, the fact they were bringing $250 to $300 million worth of sales tax. But Barrett will get a pilot. That's only good for 5 years. And then it goes on the tax rolls at a 40% assessment rate. Residential subdivisions go on at a 25% assessment rate. We're going to get 40% tax rate on they mentioned $80 million facility. If we had developed the Worley property, which will probably realistically could only handle about 200, 250 houses, the tax base and the benefits to our community tax-wise is 10 times better with something like Barrett going on there than it is a residential subdivision, which means we've got to have more schools, more classrooms, all the things that go along with a subdivision. And we're guilty. We do subdivisions all the time, so I'm talking against ourselves. But I think this is a great benefit to the community that we want to keep here for a lot of reasons. And, we all love the area, but we also love good jobs, and people come for good jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harney. Anyone else? Anyone else? That's the shortest distance. Come right ahead. Just come right here. Give us your name and your address.
Okay, I'm Brenda Marlin.
Pull that down, please.
Hello. My name is Brenda Marlin. I live at 7888 Blankenship Road. And I've sat here and I've listened to everybody pros and cons and all that. But, you know, I think y'all basically have missed the major thing. We're not against Barrett's. We're against the location he wants to use. There's other land, they can go there. I mean, why does it have to be in our backyard? I mean, we have to put up with it, and none of y'all do. I don't know where any of y'all live, but you obviously don't live out that way. It is a major concern because we live on a dead-end road, Blankenship Road. We cannot get out on 41 when traffic is backed up both ways because the interstate is shut down. That's just the way it is, and it's going to be worse. Just find a different location. If they really want to be a good neighbor, that's all we're asking. We're not against him. And one other thing I'd like to say is, I don't remember which one it was, but one of y'all mentioned that when they test the guns, we live close enough that we can hear and feel that vibration of those guns when they test them. Now, it doesn't do us any good to complain because nobody's going to do anything about it. So I just wanted to redirect. I'm sorry, you can't hear me. But there is consequences to them shooting underground. Just we don't get any response out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear? Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Marlin. I live at 7868 Blankenship Road. I know it's been a long night, but what's 3 minutes more? As my grandfather said, I'm the 7th generation to farm this land. I intend on raising the 8th in the same way that I was. I would just ask everyone to really consider, is it worth it? Because these multi-million international corporations do not care about us. They care about us last. It's easy for them to sit up here and say whatever they need to say. It's easy to say that when you live in another city or another county or a whole ocean away. But it affects us first. They can send whatever representatives they need to send up here, but they're not going to be affected by it, but we will. Instead of looking 2 years down the road, I say we look 50 years down the road, because I'll be here for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Have you already spoken? Yes. You can't speak again. I'm sorry, one time. Anyone else? If not, public hearing is called. Now we'll turn it over to the commissioners for further discussion, questions, or a motion.
Mr. Chairman. Doug, can you talk a little bit about the restriction of a PUD? We talked about it a little bit, like, would it be accurate to say that putting the entire property in a PUD is more restrictive than only doing the part where the building is going to be?
I believe in this situation that we're talking about, I believe it would be, because if they only did a portion of it, and I understand the comments and where they were going with it, but if you only did a portion of it and you left the rest of it zoned residentially, and for some reason they decided to sell that off and somebody wanted to develop residential homes on it, they could do that under the current zoning. By zoning the entire property planned unit development like they are bound by what they are showing in this pattern book. So if they do want to come back and make any changes to that other side of that Delbridge, I believe, then they would have to come back through this whole process. So, because as of right now, they're not showing really much of any kind of a development over there, except for maybe that future retreat area. But again, that's in a different phase, assuming this gets approved, which, you know, that's why we're here tonight.
But if a future commission, a future planning commission could make changes either way, I guess, right, to a PUD, or if we separated the two, it would be up to that next commission. I guess I feel like that what I gathered is a bait and switch fear. Like, we're going to approve it for this, but it's going to make it easier for something bigger to come in. I don't see that as an issue, maybe necessarily for the north side of the creek, like off of Delbridge, but making the entire property included in this PUD is pretty restrictive. Like, they can't come back and separate the Delbridge part of the creek and put some homes over there, because they're like, well, we could make some extra money by building some homes over here.
Right, not with the PUD zoning that they're asking for if it's approved, that's correct.
But if we separated, if we left that side zoned as residential medium density, they could do that. They could deed it off and put some homes over there.
Yes, they could.
Thank you.
That's a reason for you to stay on the commission, I believe, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
That's a reason for you to stay on the commission, Mr.
Well, I got more questions if I can keep going. So, Mr. Sanders, can you talk a little bit about your department's ability to respond to this from the county's perspective? And do you have any concerns over what are the permitted uses that are on this plan as it stands right now?
Certainly. As you know, the county fire rescue department protects that portion of the county. There is a new station currently under development that would quickly service that area. So as far as capabilities and staffing and response, it's going to be there very soon, as far as closer than it already is. So as far as that goes, as far as capabilities to respond, I have no concerns regarding that portion of it. From a regulatory side, obviously, the Barrett facility has been a occupant of this county for a long time. They have been very easy to work with from a fire code standpoint. Through the inspections that we have done at that facility, we have not had any issues there. So I don't anticipate that changing. So obviously we would work through that construction process with them to ensure that the code measures that are required for that facility are met. That would include, obviously, fire protection systems, alarms, in addition to all their security measures that they are required to have through DOD. Furthermore, any concerns with explosives or explosive storage, whether that be gunpowder or any other ordinance, is heavily regulated, like has already been spoken, through the ATF. In addition, they have to have a county explosives storage permit, so that's inspected by us as well. Again, that is heavily regulated. The quantities are, I can go into a lot more depth than probably needed tonight, but on that, quantities and types of explosives are required to be stored in various ways. They're required to be separated. Commercial explosives or even military explosives in their function are designed to be very stable in their resting form. So very little concern from that standpoint as far as from a storage. Again, it's heavily regulated. We would be very involved in that process, as would the federal government.
How often would you anticipate inspecting this facility if it were to be approved?
That facility would be probably on an annual facility inspection.
Anyone else?
Mr. Hughes, can you talk, there was a concern about the berms affecting drainage. I assume that would be part of the environmental and site plan, to make sure that doesn't negatively affect drainage?
Yes, sir. We will have to build the berm with stormwater features to allow water to drain through them, so that, yes, the berms would be downhill from some of these houses on Cobb Road. So we would have to work with the design team to allow for that drainage to continue on through the berms.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question that would probably be best answered by the developer. If we could we call them back up for a question?
Which
related
one?
to the.
You have a whole team back
It's
there.
related. I'll tell you what. It's related to the Delbridge Road and the lodge. If somebody can speak to that.
We'll just bring all of you up here.
I also have an wildlife question for you too. But let's take the Delbridge Road first. I do live in this area, and I do travel down Hughes Road quite often. I live over on Lytle Creek Road. I also serve as the road commissioner for this area, for this zone. So I'm very well of some of the limitations of our county roads. I have concerns and would like for you to speak to. I know that the lodge is a concept, and we've already been told that if you break ground on it in the future, before you can break ground on it in the future, you will have to be back before this commission to answer these things. But I'm a dreamer, so I love to hear your dream about what this lodge would be, how big it would be, and how frequent you would use it, and with how many people.
Sorry, it's been a long night. So at this point, we just want it as an option, because when the families come over from Australia, instead of staying, at a hotel somewhere, they'd have a place to call their own. And so we wanted to make sure, we want everybody to know that there are plans to do other stuff with it, and we don't know exactly what that's going to be, but I mentioned that farm that they have in Australia, and they built it was a sheep shed, and it was falling down, so they turned it into a conference room that would hold about, 15 people. And so the idea is that there'd be a place where you could eat, a kitchen, there'd be bedrooms there, and there would be a conference room where you can hold meetings. One of the things that we heard was we're building a hotel. We are not building a hotel off Delbridge Road.
So the second community meeting that I attended was across the street at, I guess they call it the lodge. Is that something similar to that?
Yeah,
is what you envision? Yeah,
and so as pointed out, I've not been to that lodge, so I don't know, but that was the idea, because they've seen that, the family's seen it, and so that's something we'd look at.
And you potentially could use it for in-house meetings that you wanted to feel like you weren't in the manufacturing plant, you wanted to go off-site?
Yeah, because it's important to do off-site stuff. Sure. And off-site, because that nice separation is just going around there and having team meetings and things. So we have international customers that come in because of security clearances. We can't do it other places. Understand that for an international team to be on our facility in our operations area requires a State Department license to the passport. So this would be an off-site where we could have it. There's no technical data or anything.
So if you were to move forward with that in a future phase, we would be back, Mr. DeMasi, we could address issues, concerns of road, whether that road could handle whatever they have envisioned.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. My second question is, I've heard several phone calls before tonight and then mentioned today about wildlife. And I spoke with you all last week and brought up this as well. You mentioned working with the Southeastern Grassland Initiative as a part of your conservation. Can you talk a little bit and share with the rest of the folks here about your plans for environmental issues on this property?
Yes, and we actually did do an environmental assessment prior, at the very beginning of this process, and are happy to share that. And it basically came back saying that it's largely a fescue field today on the front end of Manchester Pike. There's beautiful parts, more biodiverse parts within the wetlands, but our goal was to have a development that actually brings more biodiversity to the parts that aren't going to have a building on it. I think that's really unique, and so we've had conversations with the Southeastern Grasslands Institute, with basically building off of projects that they've done. One example is something they've done with Google in Clarksville, Tennessee, to restore native grasses on kind of your areas that you're not going to build something on, and that's something that we are planning to do. We don't have the firm plan for that yet, but we're excited to try to make it more biodiverse than it is today.
Chair, I have a question. I think you talked about this before, but why did you choose this site?
And would you address had questions about the wastewater? Can you answer that?
Yeah, from a wastewater perspective, you might have to jump in here too. You know, the intent is to not, this is more than just a factory, right? And so the machines that are being operated in the factory are CNC machines, very high-end precision machines. They are not going to be installed to the sewer system at all, right? So they are sort of self-contained units, so there's not going to be any of that flow going into the sewer system that someone mentioned. So the sewer, said differently, the sewer is purely going to be from just your traditional restrooms.
Yeah, and so by design, all the machines, all the cutting fluids and everything, all that is captured. It has to be with Safety Clean and the different cleaning companies, and then all the particulate from the manufacturing process, the stuff that we cut away, is all recycled up to Nashville, and especially in the aluminum case, back over to East Tennessee to Alcoa, where it's reprocessed. Because of proximity, because of the area that we're in and the employees. And so as we grow employees and more families and things like that, everybody knows where we are. And so with the one right-hand turn off the interstate going right into a facility, which keeps trucks making left-hand turns and, you know, across multiple lanes and things like that. So it was basically the location and its proximity to the interstate, and plus going all the way back to 2011 being identified as an area for urban growth for manufacturing.
Any other questions for the team? Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioners, do I have a motion or a...
Mr. Chair, I just have one quick question for staff here. I'm looking at the applicant's page called Project Site and Comprehensive Plan, where they have an area outlined or shaded in, I guess that's purple. I want to confirm that that is the area from the comprehensive plan that is called an Employment Activity Center. Is that correct? From the
Yeah, and I believe it's called just an employment center on the map, but a lot of the, we created the EAC zoning for that reason, but yes, you are correct.
Okay, and so, but the back part of that is not shaded, so that is kind of intended to not be developed in this manner, but the front site was.
Correct, and I will say that I've heard the term used for these land use maps like this, kind of like a bubble. If you squeeze it in one area, or a balloon rather, you squeeze it in one area, it kind of gets a little bigger in another. But what you're saying is accurate. Yeah, it looks like most of the area that they're looking at, yeah, well, yeah, they got it right there. Mike's got it on the screen. So yeah, the area they're looking to develop is the area that is within that EAC, or I'm sorry, employment center area.
These are my,
okay.
I'm not going to swear these are my last questions. I'm not. There was two comments, and this is the second time I've heard it. Doug, if you could speak to this, and then I'll put my two questions together. One is about construction blasting. What are the recourses for people? I'm unfamiliar with this. As we approve construction in the area, and people think that they may experience property damage for construction of another site. So if somebody could educate me on that. The other thing, though, is about the scenic highway and promises not to cross over Manchester Highway. Was that ever made by the county? Is that in writing somewhere? And what is the definition or restrictions of a scenic highway?
Well, let me address the first question first as far as blasting, and Mike, feel free to jump in if I misspeak, but blasting and complaints, concerns, regulation, that's all done at the State Fire Marshal's office. Okay, that's not something that we do locally here. And we've had a lot of folks that will call for that reason around developments that are going on, and we always refer them to the State Fire Marshal's office. So the other issue that you're talking about regarding the protections and things of a scenic highway, I'm not familiar personally if this is a designated scenic highway or not in that regard. Now, I will say that I know that during that rezoning hearing for the former Ms. Benz's property, that concession was made to leave a portion of that property zoned residentially. Now, I've slept a lot since then. I don't recall there ever being any kind of anything in writing or any kind of promises made that the county was never going to jump over Manchester Pike. In fact, I mean, like I said, when you look at the current comprehensive plan and even what's proposed in Plan Rutherford, which is pretty similar, it does show area on the other side of Manchester Pike in this area being within that employment area or activities area, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think there's been any promise or anything like that made from the county that says we're just never going to jump over Manchester Pike. So.
As far as the blasting goes, there's going to have to be a pre-blast survey before they, before they get started blasting. So there'll be people getting notices on their doors.
I'm going to jump in here if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. I've talked to a lot of folks on this thing. I think Mr. Marlin, when he says part of our responsibility to support the goals and interests of the local citizens, that's one phase that keeps ringing in my mind. Then I get to thinking about, is this the right location? Not the right location. We're not ready. We got to build an interchange. We don't have time. We don't have a time frame, really. We're hearing discrepancies here about when it's going to be built. I like jobs as good as anybody. I think what I heard from the management team tonight, no citizen's going to make me believe that this is a dishonest organization. I think it is an honest organization, first-class organization. I'm not going to believe the citizens are bad or backwards because they're saying this is not the right location. I drove out there today. I had no idea if somebody spoke tonight and said CarMax is the one that's dumping cars right out on the highway. I took pictures today. Right in the middle of the road, they're dumping cars en route to the current Barrett location. Crazy. So there's no way in the world that I can see that this is what I'd call an ideal location. If you bring this back to me in 3 or 4 years and the state does what they need to be doing, and don't show me that you're going to be beneficial to a piece of property that we're going to develop to 4 lanes just in front of this organization. We got citizens out here that we're saying we need to improve highways, and we're going to make special exception just for this one organization. To me, this is backwards. But we're not ready. This side is not ready. If it was, we could open it up and sign it off and start traffic flow tomorrow. I think when I heard Commissioner a few minutes ago said there's 3 issues, traffic, light, noise, I say it's 4th, and that's precedence. There's not anything on that side of Manchester Highway, and there's not anything over there for a reason. Can't get over there. But we're going to make an exception to make that happen. If we get it back and all those things are addressed, I would sign off on it. My 2 cents.
Commissioner, can I ask you a question? What did you mention about cars pulling out on the highway?
I didn't realize CarMax is out there. I heard a gentleman tonight talk about CarMax, and it had to be
You said
CarMax.
CarMax. I didn't understand you.
Because there were 3 trailer loads of cars. 2 of them were, one of them was parked on the shoulder of the road dumping cars, and one in the right-hand stop just stopped in the ramps down there unloading cars right on the road that takes me to Barrett Firearms, that's the current location. I've known Ronnie Barrett. I've been on Old Barfield Road back in the day when he first started. I know exactly where it was at through the gas industry days. He knew me back when I had a lot of hair, a lot of black hair. Them days is gone. We need this business, and that's the challenge we're facing tonight. We need this business. It is a great business. We need these jobs. But it bothers me when we're going to make special exceptions and say this is ready when it is not ready, and the burden is going to be right back on support the goals and interests of the local citizens. We're not doing that if we approve this.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've been out there 2 days in the same area you were. No trucks on the road. But they wasn't there the 2 days I was there. So I didn't see that, what you were telling what you were seeing. I didn't see it because I come from there, went to the site and looked at the site. I went back today, this morning. You were there probably this afternoon, if not. Didn't see them. I drove Cobb Road, I come back, looked at the land that was there. So I'm sorry, that's why I had to ask that, what did you see and where that was. Anyone else?
I was curious, is Commissioner Beverly, has he made any comments, or is he on record, or that anyone knows?
I mean, we've had conversations about it, but I mean, I'm not really at liberty to say, you know, if he has an opinion one way or the other, you would have to ask him directly. So he's raising his hand, as a matter of fact. He's up in the balcony. I think he's, yeah.
He's coming from the balcony.
Do you, while he's coming down, I have a question. Mike, you may know, I thought that TDOT was moving, I thought it was funded. Is this interchange? It's funded, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, sir. And we've even chipped into that fund.
Correct. The county's made a significant contribution towards the funding here.
Yes, sir.
Can you pull up the plans for that interchange change? I understand. I hear Commissioner Thompson's concerns about it not being ready right now. But as far as a development being easily access the interstate, it doesn't get much closer than this. I mean, I don't know what it's definitely not even a half a mile. It may be a few hundred yards from the exit of Barrett, of the proposed project to this interchange.
Right.
And I know it's going to be a mess out there for quite a while. But I'm not sure how much worse it's going to be because of this development going in. I mean, we've got, Mike could maybe talk about the timeline. I feel like they're going to be starting very soon. As far as the TDOT project goes, within the next 6 months is very, very soon, right? But within the next year, they're moving dirt. They've got all the site work, it's ready to go. It's as close to shovel ready as I think I've seen a TDOT project since I've been on the road board.
Yes.
So I like it that it's faster there, and I feel like it will be, having built my business in this community down an exit, surrounded by warehouses and things. We get traffic twice a day during shift changes, and I just don't, versus a neighborhood going all the time. So, but I just wanted to mention that it's in the pipeline. That funding is there.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bever.
Thank you all. I want to start off and express my frustration with the state of Tennessee's economic development. A press release was put out indicating this was a done deal when we have a night like tonight scheduled, and if this passes, we have another one scheduled on May 15th. Simple verbiage of is planning to expand and is expanding have vastly different indications. And Commissioner Shirley and I have worked hard, especially over the past 3 years, to build trust, and that was eroded away by actions outside of our control. But I want to put emphasis on the potential hypocrisy of that. Of our system is set in place for you all to make a decision tonight, another entity putting their finger on the scale. You raise very valid points. You raise very valid points. This is a tough decision. We've got the economic impact, we have the growth impact, we have the impact on our schools, on how we are going to police whatever project goes out there, because change is coming to that property no matter what. The gentleman who or family who owns that property is selling it. What do we want and what impact are we comfortable with on our community? That's what we have to decide. And right now, that is in your hands. I do not want to put my finger on the scale and in the same breath criticize the state for doing the same thing. And it goes back, I've only been married about 5 years, but I've learned, it never hurts to probably listen a little bit more. That being said, I want you to think about your core values. You've been appointed by various mayors, appointed by the county commission to sit up here and represent us as a county. If you decide to move it forward, I will take it from there. But I don't intend on giving any cover or putting my finger on the scale. I don't believe that's right after calling the state out for the exact same thing. So, I hope that, I know it doesn't roundabout there, but the deep frustration I had in the erosion of trust, that's where I'm at.
Well, I guess a lot of times we look at the commissioner who has pulse of the community. I mean, we've heard from your community. And so that's why, and I know that, prior to this public hearing, Robert P. was quick to come up and give his thoughts. And you're talking with your constituents, you know the development, you know the area, and that's why I was just asking if you had an opinion, not that you're going to, tip the scale, but that's what commissioners do.
Right.
In the area.
And to answer your question, what was presented here tonight is not totally indicative of the feedback I've gotten and the fears I've gotten, and I stand more on what we know and what we don't know. What we don't know is if this project is voted down, what type of housing is going to go in that unit. One of the gentlemen that lives right down the road builds $2 million homes. He happened to call because he saw the sign and thought it was going to be not multifamily, high density or residential medium, 3 houses to an acre. He called concerned about that. And I said, well, look over that plan, tell me what you think, and I need to hear, based on your expertise of building high-end luxury homes, is this a potential site for it? Called me back and that was a no. That was a no. So that tells me what I'm prepared for is potential 3 homes to a lot, 25 feet off of their property line. And what I'm dealing with in my own subdivision, when the developer pivoted post-COVID and decided we're going to quit building homes on larger acreage and squeeze as much as we can out of that land. The lifestyle of the community I'm living in was greatly affected by high residential medium, and that's concerning because it would be 25 feet off the property line of where these folks live right now, and I'm not sure that's a chance I'm willing to take, along with all the needed infrastructure costs and needs that go with that. That's what's concerning to me. And I can't ignore that it's not present, because it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners?
You sure? Okay. Mr. Chair, a couple of questions. Doug, I think we have determined that the city has agreed that they will service the sewer on this property?
That's correct.
Okay. And we have established that TDOT has already funded, as Rutherford County has put in money for the road improvements, right? And that is to, as we understand, begin in 2026, right? We've also heard from the team that their build out is going to be slow, in terms of moving machinery. It's going to take them a while to gear up. The current facility will stay open during that transition. Commissioner Beverly has expressed concerns about what the potential land use would be and how that would impact the community and the traffic, which could be much more detrimental to what it is now, or what it could be if this project was approved. Doug, as I understand it, this project as presented to us tonight is in alignment with the Rutherford County Comprehensive Plan?
Correct.
Correct?
Sir.
It also sits in the Epps Mill Employment Center?
That's correct.
I understand Mr. Thompson's concern, Planning Commissioner Thompson's concerns. The proximity to the interstate makes this an ideal location for any commercial or industrial entity. Lowest impact, in my opinion, for the traffic. They talked about the minimal amount of trucks, one a day perhaps, maybe even less. Small, 180 additional jobs, split shifts, etc. We've talked about drainage, we've talked about lighting, we've talked about buffers, we've talked about movement of earth mounds to protect the residents on one of the streets. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion to approve with staff comments.
I heard a second over here, I believe. Yeah.
Just kind of want to talk about like timetables. You know, we talk about TDOT, it's on the 2026 plan. I mean, more than likely, they're not even going to start working on this building till 2026 by the time they run through all the hoops. I'm going to assume by the time they go through the county and then submit plans to the state for approval. So, I mean, in probably a year and a half or so to build this site, I mean, timing-wise, I mean, window of...
It's way too long.
Does he have a motion?
It just said subject to all staff comments. He said subject to all staff comments, but all his reasons were...
Can you just read that what you have?
I don't have enough to compile it.
I was afraid of that we don't have exactly what you said, Mike. I was trying to get it myself, and I didn't, because you went...
From a volume standpoint?
You went from the balcony down to the floor and then back up, so
okay.
I'm trying
to...
Mike, before you do this,
yes,
just so I don't have to amend your motion, could
okay.
I ask you a question? If you look at page 8 with the permitted uses, I would like to remove a few of those. If you would be agreeable to that. If not, make your motion and I'll make a motion for an amendment, which we can vote on that. But the ones that cause me the greatest concern, that transportation and public utilities, the truck and motor freight terminal and service facility, I think of trucks at a truck stop coming over, being towed over and being fixed and serviced, and just when I see the word terminal, I think of constant in and out, which would increase a lot more than the one truck dropping off supplies. So that one is one that concerns me. And then in the industrial part, those basically all the automotive things, just because of my experience on Joby Jackson, those seem to move more parts, more trucks, more truck traffic going into those things. And I know we could nitpick that potentially could go to every single one of these could have a whole lot of trucks delivering and things, but those are the ones that, especially the transportation and public utilities section there, causes me the greatest concern.
Give me a second.
So you have those all listed from the list here, am I correct?
So if I'm looking at this right, let me just make sure I got it. The truck and motor freight terminal service facility, that one you wanted removed. And then under industrial, that would be automotive manufacturer, automobile parts and components manufacturer, automobile seats manufacturer. Those are the three right there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, very good.
Well, and does that also include the automobile parts and components? So there's three, right? Automobile.
Right. Yeah, I may have missed one. I apologize. So there's four there. You're right. Yeah, I think I skipped over that. Automotive parts and components manufacturer.
Right. I'm happy to include that in my motion, or if you'd like to make an amendment. But yes, so you want to say something first?
Here to answer whatever.
No, we can certainly agree with the truck terminal.
Yeah.
With that motion. The automotive piece is something we can't agree to. There's with Nissan and GM, there's over 1,000 or more, tier 1 automotive suppliers, and we have no idea, long term what this facility is going to be. I will say that this is more than just a factory. Hold on a second. This is more than just a factory. This is more than just a factory. This is this is going to be the corporate headquarters for the U.S. operations for Barrett. Okay, so we know that is going to be there for 30 or more years at a minimum based on the lease terms. So we can't agree. We can't agree to remove the truck terminal.
Let me throw something else. Let me throw something else out here. Okay, this can be amended just like the plan itself can be. Anything in the pattern book. It might be beneficial for you to consider at this point maybe removing some of these that are a little more objectionable, and then at some point in the future, if that need does arise, you could say, okay, we could add this back in through an amendment process, like you would be doing an amendment for another phase of the project. That's an option.
Now, we need to stick with just the terminal piece of it for reasons. We have to understand that this facility is going to create a lot of high-skilled labor, high-skilled manufacturing, high-skilled engineers. That comes with a really big capital requirement, and we have to be realistic about what that takes to get those capital. Those jobs just don't come there for free.
I understand that. You're saying that Barrett's going to be there for 30 years, and I'm saying all I'm asking for is a little bit of give and take here.
Sure.
To say, and I know that you all have acquiesced on several things, and you're doing things above and beyond what you're required to do. I'm not asking that these be prohibited. I'm just asking them that they not be included on this. And then in 30 years, you're right, none of us know what this is going to look like. There's going to be a completely new planning commission up here, and in 30 years, if you want to come back and add automobile manufacturing or even a truck terminal, at that point, let me finish, please. At that point, to Commissioner Thompson's point, the infrastructure may be in place that we're like, yeah, no problem. You've been a good neighbor for 30 years, and we're ready to move on. But those are the things that I would, in good faith, I also and I'm aware of what you're saying. I'm not prohibiting these, but you're going to have to come back if you're going to change the PUD to include those things that I've asked to be removed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want you to know, our concern is if something happens in 10 years, if the world goes to hell in a handbasket, okay, and you all of a sudden want to put 15 semis a day on this road,
sure.
I'll just withdraw my motion.
Okay. There's one thing to understand, too, that if something did happen, that and the restriction is so tight, that's how you end up with sort of a blighted property at the end of the day because you can't do anything with it. So that would be one of my concerns. So what exactly are we looking to strike now?
To strike
the ones that are, I think he highlighted them, the entire transportation and public utilities, and then those ones that are listed right there. And again, the concern of the neighborhood is that we're talking about traffic.
This is a manufacturing, right?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, we'll agree to that.
You would admit, you'll omit those sections from the PUD?
Or up there, yes.
Plus the transportation and public utilities.
Plus the transportation and public utilities?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Gail, my motion is to approve with staff comments. And if you need my reasonings, it's because it is part of the comprehensive plan. It is in the employment district. We have talked about drainage, lighting, traffic. We've talked about the sewer commitment. We've talked about the DOT monies, and it is funded. And the fact that the timelines, Commissioner Beavers has talked about, there will be some unpleasant static for a short period of time, but by the time they get the pads built and the building steel, tilt-up concrete ready, that's not going to happen overnight. So there will be some discomfort, but it'll be months rather than years.
I will second that.
About a second. Thank you, Commissioner Cush. I just want to make sure we got it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir?
I also wanted to see if that included some of that preservation of wildlife in some of those areas, because I do really, that's one of the selling points for me, because I do not want to see a bunch of houses. If they've allowed extension of the sanitary sewer across there and this doesn't go through, they can pack in a lot of houses if they get sanitary sewer access. This is probably the better option. Have the berms, preserve the corridor, have the wildlife, all that management.
If you're talking about the preservation of the wildlife and whatever?
Well, I mean, I know that's hard to say, but that's a whole that package deal and stuff. I know we can't mandate
if you happen to know the owner of Barrett right now?
I do, and I know what I've read those articles.
She's very much into that, so.
I know.
And I don't have a whole lot of choice, I don't think.
Well, and I'll say this, they've already talked about making commitments to that. Now, they haven't gone into a whole lot of detail, so I think that we can include that as part of staff comments, as part of what they've agreed to. It's just a matter of, we don't know the particulars, but yeah, it'd be right.
Selling point for me, and the person,
I understand.
And the person that currently owns it is obviously willing to sell. So if this doesn't go, I'm just picturing houses and school burden and everything else that goes along with that.
I think from what they're looking at and planning right here, I think that'll probably be there, but I understand totally what you're saying. Any other discussion?
Getting confused. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's the time of the night. I'm not sure. It's probably 5 minutes from my bedtime. What are we voting on? There was a motion to approve and a second. Now what are we voting on?
That's what I was.
Vote on the motion is what we'll do.
Well, we have 2 seconds now.
Yeah, we do have 2 seconds. That's right. You did second it too, didn't you?
Mr. Chairman, maybe just to clear up the procedural aspect of things, Mr. Phillips did second the initial motion from Mr. Cush. Then there was some discussion, and there were some additions to Mr. Cush's motion from Mr. Shirley, which Mr. Cush accepted into his original motion. So instead of Mr. Shirley making a second, if Mr. Phillips agrees with the amended motion by Mr. Cush, then all he would have to do is second Mr. Cush's motion as inserted language from Mr. Shirley, which, if I understood it, just included the acceptance of the PUD application subject to staff comments and a removal of the truck and motor freight terminal services facility and the 4 automobile items highlighted up there.
I will withdraw my second
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Pettis Reed.
Yes.
Jim Averwater. Jeff Phillips. Mike Cush.
Aye.
Lee Bogle. Charlotte P. Trey Gooch.
Yes.
Jim Thompson. Michael Shirley.
Yes.
Jason Beavers. Motion carries.
Motion does carry. All rezoning regulation amendment requests will be considered at the May 15th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting unless deferred or withdrawn by the Planning Commission or the applicant. Staff reports and other business.
Just a brief reminder, after our next regular Planning Commission meeting on the 28th, we will be having our work session for Plan Rutherford, just as a reminder. That's all I have.
If there's not, just a reminder that April 28th will be here in the courthouse for our next commission meeting, and we'll be also working on Plan Rutherford. We're adjourned.